I will call us to order here at 5:31, sorry. I don't know, Mr. Miller, are you doing attendance, or what are we doing here?
No, our secretary, Maggie Klein, will do that.
Ms. Klein, no relation to David Klein, who was the Covington city manager, right?
No, my dad and brother are actually both David Klein, but I'm not related to him.
Oh, wow, that's odd. Okay, great. So, Ms. Klein, you can go to it and do attendance here.
Okay, Mr. Unger,
Here.
Miss Ulrich, Mr. Wallert,
Here?
Mr. Moravec,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
and I'm here, and Mr. McElravy is excused from this meeting.
Okay. You have in front of you, it's been provided in the board packet, an agenda for this evening. Are there any motions with regard to this agenda?
I would make a motion that
Motion that we approve the agenda as presented, items 1 through 6.
All right, so we have a motion for approval. Are there any seconds?
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion with regard to the agenda?
None.
None.
All right, I'll just point out that we do have added, as is the case, citizens' address. That is, if time allows. Excuse me. Lately, we have had a number of things on the agenda that has taken us the full half hour, and we do have a special meeting at 6. So we do the best we can to get citizen comments on. If you do have a citizen comment and can't make it on, please do email one of us, email Mr. Miller, and we will be sure to respond to that as soon as possible. So that said, I will call the question. To vote?
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Miss Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. Wallert,
Yes.
Mr. Moravec,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Right, that passes 6-0. You have also provided via email were the minutes for the 8/27 and 9/10 CIC meetings. Are there any motion? We will actually take those independent of each other. So are there any motions with regard to the 8/27?
I motion that we approve the August 27th CIC meeting minutes.
Are there any seconds?
I will second that.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as provided for 8/27. Are there any points of discussion with regard to those minutes?
None.
Right. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question for vote.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Miss Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. Wallert,
Yes.
Mr. Moravec,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
I vote yes.
All right, that passes 5-0. Now, you've also been provided with the meeting minutes from the 9/10 CIC meeting. Are there any motions with regard to those minutes?
I can make a motion to approve the September 10th meeting minutes as provided.
I will second it.
So we have a motion. It's been duly seconded. Is there any points of discussion? Are there any points of discussion with regard to those meeting minutes?
None.
All right, hearing and seeing none, we will call the question and vote on that.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Miss Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. Wallert,
Yes.
Mr. Moravec,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
All right, that passes 5-0 as well. Which brings us to the items of new business. Mr. Miller, I guess you will be handling these. Item A.
Yes, sir. First item under new business is a motion to accept the transfer of real property identified as parcel number 510-0202-0064-00. This item was discussed at our previous board meetings. It is identified as a vacant lot that the township owns, and it is at the corner of Pool Road and Woodthrush. And so the the property is well covered in trees. I think that we have, the township has provided a little bit of right-of-way maintenance and mowing in season, when it's seasonal. But other than that, it has no use for us. And the township trustee of September the 24th, the item, that property was given to the C.I.C., so this motion would be to accept that. Once we do accept it, we will then create a process by which we would market it and offer it for sale for any variety of issues. Primarily two. One would be infill development. As you may recall, we've had a couple of vacant lots in the last year or so that we have sold to a local developer. that's building a home on those. This one would need a little bit more work with the clearing that would be needed. But then the other option could be a side yard for a neighboring property. And so either of those, I think, could generate some cash for the CIC.
I motion that we accept the transfer of real property identified as parcel 510-0202-0064-00.
Are there any seconds?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
None.
So the plan would be to market this through the township as we did with similar properties last year, right?
Right. We have a number of developers who have expressed interest in the other vacant lots, and we can reach out to them as well and see if they would be interested in this.
Okay, and again, the role of the CIC is not to accept the highest bid specifically, although it may. It's to the best suited and best overall offer.
Right.
And that would be a reason to hand it to the CIC.
And whatever offers, of course, we receive, we'll bring them back to the
Right.
board to accept.
And that's approximately, was it a quarter of an acre or two tenths?
0.471.
Oh, okay, 0.4.
Almost a half acre. It is a corner, so that's part of it. I looked back a number of years through Cages and could not find any year in the last 35 maybe that there was a house ever on that corner. There was no structure of any kind, so it was interesting. So I don't know. And then the auditor records as well on the transfer could not determine how we actually ended up with it either. So
what's the topography?
there's about a 12-foot drop from the home that's on Woodthrush, or no, on Pool to the corner. So it's not significant, but I think it was about 12 feet.
So for somebody, if they were bidding on it to perhaps build a single-family home, they would still be able to hit the setbacks and stuff that's zoning required.
Right.
I'm sorry, any other questions with regard?
I was just looking it up while we were talking, and it looks like it last transferred to the township on July 10th, 2007, so we've
7, okay.
had it for a while.
Yeah. But I couldn't determine why we got it. I think that was what I was trying to figure out. It didn't make sense that, there are other lots that we have acquired through a process of when a property falls into disrepair and is condemned, demolished, and then we end up with a vacant lot that we end up through a circuitous route with the Port Authority.
So in this case, what is that, 17 years that we've maintained that, and we're hopefully going to turn into a tax-producing property at the same time. We're going to cut a cost and add a revenue. So if we're able to get an appropriate bid. Any other questions, or comments, or discussion?
None.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the question on that.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Miss Ulrich, Mr. Waller,
Yes.
Mr. Morbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
All right, that passes 5-0. Item B, Mr. Miller, a motion to approve an engagement letter, Plattenberg and Associates, 2020.
So Plattenberg and Associates provides consulting services for us, preparation of financial statements that we then, they take our books, put them in the format that the Auditor of State prefers so that the books can be audited. And so this is an engagement letter for them to provide the 2024 financial statements.
Any motions with regard to this?
I motion that we approve the engagement with Plattenberg and Associates for our 2024 financial statements.
Any seconds?
I'll second that.
Discussion. So in addition to that, this is, I know that when we went through the C.I.C. audit with the Auditor of State's office, the question was posed as to what fail stops or what fail safes do we have for financial malfeasance, and one of the things is that Plattenberg and Associates is an independent accountant that just gives it another set of eyes in order to look at the books as they're doing this. So I think, although, again, we're kind of in the process of trying to reduce the footprint of government and reduce costs at the same time, I think doing so at the cost of transparency is a little foolhardy. And in this case, it's something that just gives, it's a third party that gives a seal of approval to the books that we keep.
Agree.
No other comments.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and call the question on that.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich, Mr. Waller,
Yes.
Mr. Morvac,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
I vote yes.
All right, that passes 5-0. So then we have item C, which is multifaceted, a motion to enter into commercial brokerage agreement with Nick Barella. Is that pronounced properly?
That is correct.
At Republic Commercial Real Estate for services in, one, listing the former training center for a lease period of 90 days. Not a lease period of 90 days, but a listing for 90 days, right?
That is correct.
List station number 102 for sale, list station number 26 for sale, with no commission to be paid if sale price is less than $400,000.
All right, I'll start with the first item on the training center. So we've shown that building, we've had it for sale for probably a good year. We've marketed it in a number of ways through commercial real estate brokerage companies, individuals that we know that through individuals and companies that might be interested in purchasing it. And I have met a number of people out there to look at it. We've walked through it, shown it. I think all three of you as well have seen it at various times and know the condition that it's in. And so it has been very difficult to create interest because of its condition. And so we're now at a place where we feel like we want to try something different and get a broader reach. And through a commercial real estate company, that has been our discussion in the last couple meetings of hiring a broker to help us extend that reach. And so the recommendation was Nick Barella with Republic CRE. And so the training center, we're going to look to see if we can, we're going to spend a short period of time, a window of 90 days, to see if we could find somebody that would want to lease it instead of purchase that, and see what kind of conditions we could come up with that would be workable for both parties.
All right, are there any motions with regard to this item? Or I guess we're doing it all as one, is that? Okay.
We can take them separately or
Okay, let's
as
take
one.
it separately. I
Okay.
think
I motion that we enter into a commercial brokerage agreement with Nick Barella at Republic Commercial Real Estate to list the former training center for lease for a period of 90 days.
I'll second that motion.
All right, just a couple questions on this. If, what if somebody were to come up in those 90 days and want to purchase it? What is our?
Then I think we'll begin the process of negotiating with them, A, price, B, use,
Okay.
C, any other conditions that may exist, and work through that process to bring you an offer. So
And I assume there's a
we're-
mutual option for like another 90 days or something? Is it?
Right, we can extend that. We have, I think flexibility to be able to make the best out of this, what we do have there.
Should I amend my motion to say for lease or sale?
You can do that, yes.
Is there a second to my amendment?
Well, let's back that up, because if it's sale, would it be with Nick Barella, or would it be?
Yes, he would be the broker
Right.
that is helping us find a
Yeah, let's just say lease
buyer
or sale.
or
then.
a leasing.
So,
So you'll second that?
yeah, I'll second that.
Nothing else from me.
Yeah. We already got that.
And again, the purpose of, I guess, lease would be the leaseholder would provide project improvements with the eye on a longer term lease.
Correct.
And the idea would be that we would, as a township, would not have to pour money into improvements, but also the fact that it would be, the leaseholder could modify it as they see fit for their use.
Right. And I think all that's part of our negotiations when we have an interested party.
All right, any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, we'll go ahead and call the question on that.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich. Yes. Mr. Wallert.
Yes.
Mr. Morbeck.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
I vote yes.
All right, that passes 5-0. Item 2 is the listing, again with Nick Barella at Republic Commercial Bank, the listing of station number 102 for sale.
All right, so Station 102 is located at the corner of Old Colerain and Kemper. And so that station is similar to 26. Both of those are still in use. We discussed at the previous meeting the potential inconveniences, if you might, for showing a property with a commercial broker while it's in use. But we felt like after subsequent discussions that we could manage that with our battalion chiefs that are on site, and minimal amount, if any at all, disruption to operations at these firehouses. So we are wanting to list 102. Once again, I've shown it a number of times already to individuals and brokers just to get a look and see what the kind of use is. So there are a number of opportunities I think that we can pursue, and I think Mr. Barella can help widen that reach for us.
All right, are there any motions with regard to listing Station 102 with Mr. Barella?
I motion that we enter in a commercial brokerage agreement with Nick Barella to list Station 102 for sale, Republic Commercial Real Estate.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion, please.
None.
So do we have an idea?
Pam Gemberly.
Sorry.
Do we have an idea of listing price? Yet?
No, we don't have one yet. I do know that at this point, Mr. Barella specializes in light industrial and commercial, and he has a price per square foot that he thinks is very consistent right now based on a light industrial use that this would draw. And again, depending on use and price, we'll bring that back and ask you for your approval.
So that's fairly rural. How's it, the area around it, of course, that's not really zoned. It's a government use right now, I guess.
Correct.
How's the area around it is zoned is?
It's primarily residential.
Okay.
So that's in our, rural estate zoning district that we recently zoned all that as RER. And so that, I think that across the street, you do have Art on Fire.
Right.
And so I think Roadhouse, or no,
Top of the hill.
Highway House is just right down the street. So Vina Colette is not very far down there. So I think there's options that could be creative. And I think whether they be light industrial or commercial, I think all of those options are on the table for us.
The nursery's there too.
Yep, right.
All right, any other discussion? Here, we'll go ahead and call the question.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich. Mr. Wallert. Mr. Morbeck.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
5-0. All right, item 3 then is list station number 26 for sale with no commission to be paid if the sale price is less than $400,000.
All right, so item 3, Station 26 is on Galbraith, just west of Colerain. It is in an interesting area. It has residential nearby, primarily across the street. It has commercial right next door. A few doors down, there is auto repair. Go east, and you'll run into some mixed use commercial establishments. And so, and of course, not very far, and you're on the avenue. We have received offers on this already based on just word of mouth, knowing that it's going to be replaced with a new station on Clara. So one of the offers is at $400,000. And so the stipulation is that we are able to sell it for 400. If you can get more than that, then you are you're doing better, and you would be compensated with a commission above that. So I just, again, full disclosure, I've already talked to Mr. Barella about all three of these and what our discussion was going to be tonight, and he was in full support and agreement that and willingness to enter in with these stipulations.
All right, are there any motions with regard to this?
I motion that we enter into a commercial brokerage agreement with Nick Barella at Republic Commercial Real Estate to list Station 26 for sale with no commission to be paid if the sale price is less than $400,000.
Any seconds?
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion?
Just a question, I guess. If the price is over 400,000, is the commission based on the price over 400,000, or is it based on the entire price of the property?
I think that's what Mr. Miller indicated, right?
It's the sale price,
Right, the entire price.
based on the sale price.
I'm sorry, I was under the impression it's the amount over 400 when you presented.
No, it's not.
If
It's based on the
if-
contract
if
sale
he-
price.
Yeah, if he brings a buyer for 600,000 to the table, I think he has earned a commission on the 6.
Yes, I didn't like how
And
that was put there.
we can, obviously, it's an item we can discuss with the board, but that would be my,
So I guess, and again, I'm not in the real estate, so I don't know how these things go, but my view is if we're 400 in the bag right now, that's 400,000.
Walk away with a minimum 400.
Right. And what's his commission rate? It's
4%.
4%, yeah, so 16,000. Yeah,
But it's but if there's another buyer's agent, it will be more than 4.
Yeah, if there is a buyer's agent, then that goes to 6.
And all contracts are based on if this is the sale price, if it's 600, 700, you are paying for that, not that. You're just not going to accept an offer under 400,000 with this particular firm and pay this particular firm a commission on any sale price under 400,000.
So basically, in order for us to become whole with the commission, would be 424,000, or any number above that.
Exactly.
If
Yeah,
you'd
I
like,
didn't
if you'd
like-
like to amend the motion
I would,
for that,
I think I called it earlier about that, but
you
I'm
certainly.
sorry, repeat that again?
I called in earlier because I didn't like the verbiage on that. But that was,
You called with,
no, when I had a discussion, we had talked about why this verbiage was like this. I didn't care for how this verbiage was in here, but that was my opinion. Because it shouldn't be written like that.
shouldn't be written like it is now?
No.
And how do you feel it should be written?
I think it should be an exclusion, the person that offered us the $400,000, it should be an exclusion for that buyer, because we know we have that buyer. And if the buyer decides to get, if that buyer decides to get their own realtor and submit, they can still submit this offer. So you're paying a commission on an offer we already have. So that's why I asked if it should just, we talked about excluding this particular buyer from the commission, not the sale price.
So we actually have two offers, right?
3.
Three.
But this being the highest, but that's what I said, we should
Right.
exclude all three of those. All three of those people can
Okay.
actually come through their own broker or this broker and write those same offers. So we don't want to pay a commission on people we already have in our
Right.
pocket. So that's how I think that should read, not like that.
Open to new language. I think it was not intended to be
That's,
verbatim.
that sounds reasonable, Kathy. Is that, so how would we work, how would
I-
you
when
make
we-
another
when we
motion
list
to,
this particular property, you write, no commission will be paid on X, Y, Z, because we have already had those buyers in there. Because if those three people decide to go get their own brokerage firm and write with this, we will still be deemed to owe them a commission. If we exclude them and they still come in with an offer, we still do not have to pay a commission. these people can still write an offer. That's what I'm saying. That's when I was opposed to this, is that all three of these people can then come in at 401 and write an offer, but we already had them in our pocket. So I think it should be excluded for the three
So
people.
would you like me to amend my
Yes,
motion
please.
to?
Yes, please.
And we motioned and seconded already. So I would like to amend my motion that if any one of those three buyers ultimately buys the property, that there be no commission paid on those three buyers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's my amendment.
So let me make sure that we have this clear here before I plan on seconding it. So are we having both stipulations or just one?
I think that's a moot point.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, I
all
think it's
somebody can
covered.
do is 401. That's why I don't
Right.
like this. So I think
Okay.
that should be taken out, and because we know that buyer has offered that already.
Excluding the three,
Yes. And if he
three
come-
parties.
Yes.
Because you're right, if they bid 401, all of a sudden we owe
Exactly.
commissions on both sides.
That's what I was
Yeah.
trying to discuss, why I didn't care for that verbiage.
Well, and if those three bail and don't come through and we end up selling it for,
400, when then we owe,
Right, exactly.
if we end up selling it to somebody else
But
for
if we get
much less.
400 from somebody else, it's still,
but they got that client. And I feel that, you know what I mean?
I mean, technically, their clients are already came to us as like, say we're the for sale by owner.
Right.
Okay, so they are not bringing us a new client, they're already here. So we've done this plenty of times in real estate, where there's a person that wants to buy your house if their house sells, but, if it doesn't sell, I'm not gonna, in the meantime, if you sell it for this, I'm gonna pay you the commission. So,
Right, but Dan's point is if the other three bail,
yeah, then,
and somebody ends up buying it for 300, we'll owe the commission.
Absolutely.
But it's that agent's client, and that makes more sense to me. That seems more equitable to me than under this, they won't get anything. So I guess to me, if the value falls, that puts skin in the game for the agent to bring in those offers. And by the way, sometimes the first offer leads to a second or a third or a fourth.
and you wanna get in a bidding war.
Yeah.
I don't like the 400.
Right, because it seems like it seems like it doesn't incentivize to get bids in
No.
that are, yeah. No, Mr. Miller, what do you think about, you've dealt with Mr. Borello, what do you think of this?
I think he would accept the motion that Dan has amended to, that he did not bring those to us,
Right,
and so there is no commission that would be due to him on any of those three, up to the 400. If he's able to take it higher than that, then I would say that we would owe him the commission for that increase.
and what do you, I mean, that's from the broker's point of view, but from the township's point of view, how do you feel about this? It seems to me I'm not an agent, but from a philosophical point of view, that we're better served by Ms. Ulrich's,
Because that $400,000 offer, they can come at any time with their broker, and
right,
so, you're still gonna pay a commission to somebody that we already have. We know they got that offer. Just exclude them. Exclude them from
I
the.
totally agree.
Okay.
And I think that was the intent, is that we're not going to
But
pay.
that buyer still can, this particular buyer can still come back at 401, 405, and we would still owe them commission. That's why at 400, it's still, we're still looking to lose money on that particular buyer.
That is correct.
Yes.
okay. Yeah, I will second that motion.
And then my only comment would be to those watching at home, we don't talk outside of meetings about these things. That's why we're working it all out right now.
And I will just point out, completely unrelated, but somebody I can't count, somebody, I've been saying 50, it's 60. I don't know if you caught that.
I've caught it
Yeah,
four times,
I'm like, what is going on here?
Counting, yeah.
Yeah, my apologies
Okay.
on my St. X math. Yeah, so I will second that motion, the amended motion. I think that's more equitable for the agent, and I think that serves the township best interest as well. We will call a vote then, I think.
Ms. Stronger,
Yes?
Ms. Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. Wallert,
Yes.
Mr. Morvak,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
All right, that passes 6-0, and I'm trying to find, I've gone square here. All right, we have update on Sears auction items from the last CIC meeting.
Sears action items. So, all right, so quick update, we're just past 6. All right, so one of the discussions items was building a barrier between Sears and the mall, given that we are moving towards shutting down the heat so that we don't have to heat the building during the winter. There is a meeting, let me just preface, there's a meeting next week at the Port Authority, since they are the property manager. They are going to be discussing all these items. They have the wall on the list to make decisions on. Number 2, it would be the decommissioning of the sprinkler system. So they'll drain those out and make sure they don't freeze. The parking lot lights, that is being investigated. The architect that is looking to design, not only, the wall doesn't need a lot of design, it's going to be mainly the facade on the outside after the building is removed. And then the 5th item would be a study on environmental remediation and whether there is anything in the building, again, moving towards the complete demolition. So whether there's asbestos that needs to be remediated. There's been a contract signed on that, and they are engaging with an environmental company to do that study in preparation for the Port Authority putting out an RFP on demolition, and then with the expectation that that would be sometime January, February, March, sometime spring. So that is the update on Sears. I think that covered all the action items that we had discussed. So that wall should be fairly easy to build, and that would be the first item, I think, along with the sprinklers and the parking lot lights. So,
Thank you.
okay,
So there's no action required of us right now.
nothing.
Right, and we have actually gone over, so we're going to, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn so that we can.
I motion that we adjourn the CIC meeting at 6:03 PM.
I will second that, as I have all the motions tonight.
You hit a first on one of them. All right, any discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and call for a vote.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich, Mr. Waller,
Yes.
Mr. Morvac,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
All right, that vote, 6-0, and we are adjourned at 6:03.
Okay, it's a little after 6, 6:07. We'd like to get the meeting started for the special meeting for the capital and policy book. So would you like to start? Oh, we have to get roll call.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Wall?
Here. Would you pass it?
Thank you, Board. To kick things off tonight, we have 2 presentations for you and then opportunities for discussion related to these presentations. Annually, per the trustee rules of procedures, we are to have a review of capital through a work session, and any time that we work through policy changes, we find it important to bring that to you all with staff recommendations so you all can review them prior to taking any action. So to kick things off tonight, I've got a quick presentation on capital, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to Tiffany for a presentation on policies, and then we'll guide through some conversation. But really the start here is to look at the capital budget for next year. This is an early recommendation into the budget process. So on the slide right now, you will see the proposed vehicle and facility plan. Based on some back and forth and internal staff conversations, one of those items will change. Staff is recommending to remove parking lot repairs from that item for 2025. We'll probably push that out into 2026 for the time being. Looking at other items on here, especially specifically in 2025, there's one item of note that I really want to call attention to. That's the Station 26 and 102. So that $1.6 million figure that you see there, that is actually the interest that's been earned on the bonds while they've been sitting in the capital project fund. At the closeout of the project, we're going to have to do one of 2 things, transfer those dollars back to the fire district, or there's a chance that there will be some federal arbitrage that we will have to pay back. Basically, the federal government has a rule that you cannot issue debt and then make more money on your debt than what your interest payment is. So they'll run a calculation. I believe these bonds are at 4.5%. So any interest that was earned at a rate higher than 4.5%, that delta would have to be paid back to the federal government through arbitrage. And that calculation is going to happen next year when we close out the project. But we have to recognize it because next year we plan on being completed and moving on from it. And so those dollars are going to either have to move back into the fund or they will have to go, a portion of which out the door through the arbitrage process. Sorry, that is a mouthful, and arbitrage is not easy to say 10 times fast. So, all right, other items on there of note, we have committed to finding ways to continue to fund the road program at $1.9 million through the life of this capital plan. And there are other small items on there for different areas. So with that being said, there's really one proposed recommendation. This is a proposed change to how we think about capital budgeting. We have a lot of vehicles. We have a lot of old vehicles. We have fire engines that are 30 years old. We have dump trucks that are 30 years old. And it is very difficult for us to fund all of these changes on a year-by-year basis. And so the recommendation that I'm posing to you all, that is really where I'm hoping to get a lot of feedback tonight on, is providing a new approach to capital that would occur with the permanent appropriations each year. So essentially what we're recommending is that at the closeout of the year, which typically happens in February, we'll take a deep dive look at what kind of budget surplus there was in each fund. If there is a budget surplus, we would then allow that department to reallocate those dollars toward their capital needs. For example, if the fire department has a budget surplus of $1 million, they would be able to then turn around and take $750,000 to make progress on their deferred maintenance. That's the proposal. This would stay within their funds because that's the requirement per fund accounting. But this would really allow us to be a little more strategic in how we approach capital. And it also provides, in my mind, an incentive to our departments to continue to save dollars and to find new sources for revenue to ensure that they can make progress. So, thinking about a year like this year, you've got your fire department that, implemented a new revenue source. And depending on what they're able to bring in on that would be a way to sort of incentivize them to get things moving faster and what have you. So that's the recommendation as it stands. This would apply to all of the funds that have some deferred maintenance. So we'd be looking pretty heavily at year end at our park district. We'd look heavily at our road fund. We would look at our police fund and our fire fund, and then naturally general fund for any building needs. I suspect that this building is going to have some challenges over the next 5 years. It is about 25 to 30 years old right now, and that tends to be when some of your major systems start to feel it. So that's the recommendation from staff on a new approach to capital. And then one final slide is just major capital projects that are in the pipeline. These are all sidewalk projects. I do want to really call out that first project there, the Springdale Road, Lower Linda to Colerain. Recently, we had applied for some grant funding from SORTA. Unfortunately, we were not selected. They deemed that the non-existent sidewalk was in good shape, which is surprising to me. Instead, there's a large portion of those dollars being put toward projects within the city of Cincinnati limits. In fact, 72% of their funding that they're collecting from the entire county is going toward those projects. So I will likely be recommending that this project is canceled. Unfortunately, that may mean returning some federal dollars because, quite frankly, I don't know that we can afford to cover the delta. We had asked for about $500,000 from SORTA, and those grant dollars really do go a long way to helping to ensure that we can make projects happen in Colerain, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to move forward without those dollars. I have asked SORTA to reconsider. They do not have a formalized appeals process, so I'm not sure how they're going to review that request, but wanted to point that out to you all early in the game. And just for some perspective, the capital reserve currently is at $1.1 million. We established this in 2023. There were a couple other items that have been discussed at different points in work sessions. There was a discussion at one point about looking at installation of park gates and charging folks to use parks. Our recommendation is that we spend Q1 and Q2 of next year to do a deep dive on what the delta and ROI would be on that. Naturally, to install something that has software such as credit card readers. It would require data plans. It would require fiber lines. So these are likely going to be expensive projects, and we'd really want to dig in and see what the ROI is and the life cycle would be for that to actually pay off. So our hope is that by Q2, end of Q2 next year, we'll have a formalized recommendation. And should the board desire to move forward with that, our recommendation would be to fund that from the capital reserve. And that's what I have for the moment. So I'm going to pause there and turn it over to Tiffany, and then we will have.
I'm sorry, can you go back? What was the 400,000 or 300,000?
100. For the
300,000, okay.
And that's a
ballpark figure.
yes, pure conservative estimate
Right.
based off of projects that happened 5 to 10 years ago that were 6 figures.
Okay, yeah, I'm only, there's only one park that I'm really interested in.
Sure.
Pursuing that.
Right, so that is that presentation. And then I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany, who is going to walk us through a presentation on changes to the policy book.
Okay, hello board. Thank you for your attention. Just a few kind of caveats before we start this discussion. The policy book update, it wasn't our 2023 strategic plan planning sessions to put it in our 2024 initiatives to look at that policy book and do a deep dive. Part of that initiative also was to evaluate staff retention, investigate employee incentives that would increase morale. And so staff did a survey on our employees back in July. And that kind of motivated a few of these policies updates. Also, I think we're on the first slide. The last review or overhaul of the book was done in January of 2019. So we're looking at this point, once this gets approved, that it would have been 6 years. So a lot's changed in the last 6 years. Our leadership obviously has changed throughout the whole organization. Some staffing issues have crept up where our policy had been silent before. And then, as I mentioned before, our new multi-year strategic plan really was a big motivator in this, and also our staff satisfaction survey. So our policy book has 7 chapters, if you will. Each chapter is pretty much an overview of each department or operating division of our organization. So of the 7 chapters, you can read them there. The first one is our human resources one. This is really where a large chunk of our recommendations are coming from. You'll see a few in the fiscal chapter. 2 have already been passed by the board, and I believe that was in our September board meeting. So we would just have 1 additional one there. And then we merged a few chapters. So chapter 3 and 4 will be merged into 1 per our recommendation. And then we've got 2 big public services policies that we'd like to update regarding our special events within our parks and how we utilize that space for the public and how we can coalesce or marry those 2 public usage and events while they are happening at the same time. And also our tree policy, we've got an area where we can merge those 2 policies together. And then police and fire, we're just, we don't really have many updates in that because they have their own operating SOPs, if you will. So our next slide, we're going to dive right in. So our human resources policies. Again, this is probably our largest chapter that we are recommending some changes to. There are 37 existing policies in total. I'd like to point out the graphic you see on the right there. That it's a little fuzzy, I think, from the slide, but within that staff satisfaction survey that we conducted this past summer, a large portion, 69% of the responses were related to incentives that would motivate our employees that had to do with awards, monetary gifts, contributions, sick time sellback, that kind of thing. And I can say too, obviously with some funding challenges, some of our positions within our organizations, the salary might not be competitive with other communities that maybe have the same position. So this would really fill in that gap to keep us competitive when we're in the employee search to fill these positions, and also helps kind of subsidize, if you will, that gap in the salary differences between other organizations. The last bullet point is there are 3 new policies added for consideration, so we'll get to that as well. All right, next slide. Again, I mentioned before, most of the policies received simple updates such as spelling and grammar. I believe in our next meeting, I will be presenting the board with not only the recommendations that we discussed tonight, but also a red line document that you can review, and you'll see those spelling and grammar fixes in there. 4 policies received added or updated recommendations for changes. And these are the big ones that relate to motivating our staff, creating that incentive to keep people here, and also finding the talent in our hiring pool when we go out to look for positions. So policy 1.5, this is work hours and pay schedule. So we added a longevity pay incentive for if you've worked here full-time, after you complete a first full year, you'll get $60. It seems little now, but the longer you stay with us, you'll keep increasing that. So you'll get $60 your first year, another $60 for 120 your second year. And what we like about this policy is we do have this longevity policy within our most of our collective bargaining agreements. The ones that are left out from longevity policy right now are the non-bargaining employees, such as administration, finance department, and zoning and development department. So that would be a max incentive payment of $1,680 if you're here for 20 years. So considering what we're incentivizing to have someone stay here for 20 years, I think is good motivation. You get that $1,600 paycheck when you celebrate year 20, and it stops at that. So we're maxing that out, so we're not constantly having to do that math on that one. And then, Mr. Weckbach, did you want me to stop at each one for discussion or finish through?
I think let's get through, and then we'll
Okay.
discuss everything at
Okay,
the end. Yep.
Perfect. So policy 1.9 is paid time off. This, of all policies, was the largest update of all of the 37. And there were 6 updates that we are recommending for consideration. And the first one is mental / behavioral health qualifications for sick time use. So essentially, we have in this policy, we have reasons for usage of sick time, which include illness, sick child, on and on and on, but we don't have anything in there for mental or behavioral health. And obviously, with the focus on mental health recently, we would like to add that as a reason to use sick time. The next bullet point is delegated authority pay. Before I get into this recommendation for consideration, this would only apply to 7 staff members currently. So essentially, we're saying from the department head level up, if you are delegated authority over your fire chief, say, that individual will be paid fire chief wage for that week because they're doing double duty that week, right? They're doing their own job and then also the duties of the fire chief. So that's an incentive for them to, really raise their hand or maybe do a really good job. Not that we have an issue with anyone doing a bad job, but it's just really rewarding them for stepping up to that plate and juggling a lot more items that week on their to-do list. So that's up for consideration for you all. The third bullet point is sick leave sellback incentive. Again, this is very limited to who qualifies for this. You have to have at least 960 hours in your sick leave bank to even qualify for this sellback. I believe what I counted, I do have that in front of me. I should have got that number. Let me check here. Currently, there would only be 12 people that would even qualify for this benefit. So essentially, we would give employees who qualify 1 day a year where they can sell back up to only 40 hours of their sick time to sell back to the township. Again, you have to have at least, at this point, you have to have 1,000 hours, right? Because you can't go below 960. So anyone that has 1,000 hours, they can sell back 40 hours for the year, or once a year, excuse me. The fourth bullet point, this, we did put limits on sick time donation. For FMLA purposes, you are allowed the 12 weeks without penalty for any illness. I'm not going to go into that law, but we're finding that a lot of people were donating their sick time that were emptying their bank of sick time. So we're limiting who can donate sick time to others. If they have over this 12-week threshold, then they would be permitted to donate that sick time. Right now, we're very silent on that. So if I have only 30 hours of sick time, I can sell you back, I can donate 20 hours to you, which only leaves me 10 hours. So if I fall ill, now I'm so we're really putting in a protection for our employees who are really generous, so to speak, so that they're not left out when they're facing a medical emergency. The second to last one, funeral leave for immediate family members. I hope that we never have to ever utilize this. I don't want to say it's an incentive, but basically all of our CBAs have in place a funeral leave component. So if a family member, and it has to be the next of kin, so if it's my cousin, I don't apply. This doesn't apply. If it's my mom, then it would apply. To where I would get 40 hours of funeral leave. So I don't have to use my personal bank to take care of funeral arrangements or anything like that. Heaven forbid if it's a child, or we don't have anything in place right now if someone loses a child. And, we really want to support our employees who are in that horrible situation to where they've got to bury a loved one. And they don't have to worry about tapping into their sick time.
So that would be in addition to the sick time? I missed the first part of that. Are you using
is
sick
separate
time
from
for
sick
funeral
time.
This is
leave?
separate, this is funeral.
It's a
So this
separate,
is something new.
yes. Well, currently we do offer this to one collective bargaining unit. So we do have staff that have this, I don't know what, I don't want to call it an incentive. Benefit, yeah.
Good word.
So, thank you. So we do have a group of employees that currently have funeral leave that they can utilize outside of their sick time or earned leave. And we're just asking that our non-collective bargaining unit employees have also that same benefit. And hopefully, again, that we don't ever have to, if you all approve it, we don't have to get to that point. And then the last item on policy 1.9 is, is just a reminder that these updates are currently being observed and have been approved in various other CBAs. So that's 1.9. 1.10, leaves of absence. We are asking for a consideration of paid parental leave benefit. Again, this is 40 hours that if I'm adopting a child, I can register for this benefit, and then I can use those 40 hours to go to court to go through my adoption hearing. This is a benefit that we're giving to parents outside of their earned sick or personal time. Policy 1.12 is disability and early retirement notification policy. We were faced with a couple situations over the last 2 years where we received a retirement notification only 1 week out from their retirement date. That left us scrambling with trying to fill the position, get this person ready to retire. We would like to offer an incentive. If you give us a 3-month notice that you're retiring, then you get another, I think it's 100 hours of your sick time that you can buy back. Right now, employees can sell back 960 divided by per quarter hour. So we'd give them another 100 hours for basically incentivizing them to help us be more prepared for their departure.
A week seems like a lot. When I retire, I'm going to leave a note on the desk the day of.
That's a tough situation because really it doesn't give us an opportunity to help find staff within.
When I'm done, I'm done.
This is a really nice incentive for it's kind of a selfish incentive because it's from the human resources side of things as an organization, so we can better prepare for their departure and look at that succession planning. And it's really a drop in the bucket for them just to give this a notice 3 months in advance. They're getting another 100 hours. Like, why wouldn't they? It would be beneficial to us for this incentive, just so we can prepare better. Okay, and then the last, I think this is the last, let me just triple check on that one. Yes. The last update to current policies is 1.21, our tuition reimbursement policy. We're asking for a slight increase in that threshold of tuition reimbursement due to inflation. I believe the last time that that line was reviewed was back in 2019. It might have been prior to that, but I believe it's only a $500 increase in that tuition reimbursement.
Yeah, we did not make any tweaks to that area back in 2019, so this is likely from the policy that's been on the book from early 2010s.
So
Are
that's,
you trying to tell me college tuition has gone up since 2010?
That's what I hear in the news. Yep.
so before we delve into the 3 new policies, these are just updates to current policies that we're open to the floor for discussion.
Okay, so I have a really difficult question for you, because, conceptually, this seems great. Is there a possibility, and I look at J-Mac as the money guy, is there a way that we can do, and again, it's a forecast, it's not a promise, what each one of these will cost us?
That's already been done, sir.
All right.
How much is that?
It depends.
And,
So-
and to add on to Matt's question, when we gave out these financial incentives, do we have to match that with a PERS contribution? I think so.
I believe that is correct.
Yeah, yep,
So it's whatever your figure is plus
Yep.
14%.
right.
But if we did it in the form of gift cards, we wouldn't need to.
Correct, I believe. It's still a form of,
Sounds like a legal question.
yes. So I guess it depends. So a lot of these depend on who takes advantage of it. So
So I believe when Tiff was running calculations on this, she was looking at maximum total potential cost. Was
right.
how she
so
framed it up.
maximum
So
total potential cost is 50. Sorry, quick math in my head. Under $70,000 if everyone took advantage of
everything that's on that sheet right there.
pregnancies, deaths in the family.
And that may feel like a low number, but you have to keep in mind that when we're talking about these types of financial incentives, we're talking about all the non-collective bargaining folks in the township or folks that don't have a contract, and that corpus is small. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but I think 90% or so of the workforce is in a collective bargaining agreement. And so really what some of the attempt here is to try to levelize our folks that are not in unions, which then, further incentivizes them to not unionize, to, allow them to have some of the same benefits that folks that are in collective bargaining agreements currently have.
So the numbers of people that would be impacted by these changes, can you give me a number?
I think it's less than 20.
Yes.
And when you come up with that number, you say people that are eligible. So obviously, you're taking females of a certain age when you talk about pregnancy leave. You're not taking the whole population, right?
I figured the parental leave.
I was going to say, you can adopt a kid even if you're.
Okay.
I did, on average, 4 per year, which
Okay.
of the eligible people, I think most of us are in our 50s. So I don't.
Right.
Yeah, and in my time with the township, you've had less than 1 a year that would be a non-CBA individual.
And then I just, crunching the numbers, the maximum would be 61,600, so less than 70.
And then do you have, I guess you have a range with that number, or do you have a minimum?
That
Or
would
do you
be
have
maximum.
an estimated mean or something?
I think the biggest out of all these items on the list of consideration is the longevity pay. The other ones are going to vary just because there aren't necessarily a lot of folks that have large sick banks. There aren't a lot of folks that are going to hopefully experience, the need for funeral leave. And And then when you speak about things like delegated authority pay, there are only so many department directors. There aren't a lot of
$1,700
them.
at the
So
most with that one.
yeah.
So what do we, to get longevity pay, we can actually be more accurate in the estimate we put on.
Yes. And I think that number was, I think you've got it too.
Longevity pay was 21,200.
So that's 25% of the total max.
When does delegated authority start? Does it start when fire chief says, I'm going up to Columbus for something tomorrow and I'm only gone for a day, or is it
No,
for?
so the policy would state, it has to be a minimum of 3 days. And they have to file the paperwork with the HR department and finance department for that to happen. And it would be so the individual wouldn't get their current base pay, they would get the chief pay. So if I make $20 an hour on my normal rate and the chief makes $30 an hour, I get $30 an hour that week, not 50. Does that make sense?
Right, so it'd be a minimum 3 days,
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, this would be,
maximum of how many?
We didn't put a maximum on that, but
yeah, and
If somebody takes off 12 weeks for FMLA, I guess you would have to pay them to be
Yeah.
the chief and.
right.
that's a big job, yeah.
And that would sort of be the incentive for folks to be willing to do that for that 12-week period, because as Tiffany said, they're likely going to be taking on 2 jobs at that moment in time. It's very similar to like in our fire department when folks ride up into the battalion chief chair or the captain chair or what have you.
And when will this all come back for action?
So there's going to be 2 more opportunities for discussion. We're going to bring it on for a full first reading at the November meeting with the recommendation that whatever you all allow to stay in or want to take out or tweak to be adopted at the December meeting. So still 2 more opportunities to talk further and digest and ask questions of us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany.
All right, and then 2 new policies for consideration. They don't have numbers because they're new. Child companion policy. These are basically guidelines that, for instances that require an employee to bring their child to the workplace. We had a potential situation that ended up not being a situation where the policy was silent on this. So essentially what had happened is a member of the public saw kids in one of our township vehicles, reported it to us. When we investigated, it was actually our seasonal employees, who are kids, but they're 16 or 17, 18. So when we dug deeper, we were contemplating, well, that policy's silent. So what if someone did bring their child to work and put them in a township vehicle? This policy states that that's not allowed. You can't bring, if you need to bring your child to work, you have to meet these certain criteria, and that will be for your review in November.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's hard to discipline individuals when there's not a policy that they violate. So by doing this would make it very clear, cut and dry, that if you violate this, you would be subject to progressive discipline.
So just as an example, if your spouse dropped off the child here at the township because they had a 4:30 dentist appointment and left your child in your office for 2 hours, does it cover being in the building also?
Yes.
And what would the policy be? I wouldn't have a problem with that as long as you were getting your work done, but.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the child can't be disruptive to the workplace area. They can't go into dangerous areas like the basement or, like an electric room, township vehicles, anything like that.
And they need to be under your direct eyes on
Correct.
supervision the whole
Yes.
time?
Yep,
And subject to approval of your direct supervisor.
correct.
That sounds really reasonable. I mean, I think there's some jobs that won't be allowed at all.
Right.
And then the second one, because we now have electronic timekeeping methods, we put guidelines in there, in this policy for staff to manage our electric timesheets, electronic payroll services, and also we have time clocks now that people punch in and out of. So it just kind of outlines those guidelines on how to use the timesheet now, since it's electronic, and what happens with discipline if I clock in for Jeff. What happens to me? I'm going to get in trouble for that because, he's 5 minutes late. He texts me, hey, can you clock me in? We can't do that. So now there's progressive discipline for items like that. Okay, all right.
So there isn't a policy that forbids that now?
No. We never had electronic timekeeping until this past year.
Yeah, we didn't have like a physical clock anywhere that somebody had to punch in, punch out, and so now that we have it, we should have a policy that governs that.
Oh, yeah.
We used Excel spreadsheets for timesheets when I first got here, actually. So, all right. If we can move on, we've got a few fiscal policy updates. Actually, only one. There are 16 policies in existence. 3 were, that's supposed to say, 3 were most recently adopted in the June meeting. That's listed out there. One policy update, we would like to update our purchasing card policy, and we're just really changing the language that reflects our new banking service with First Financial. And then we'd also actually like to add one new policy for consideration. I don't know where this quite fits. It might fit under other policies or fiscal policy updates, but it's a new policy for economic development incentives. And that's really to drive that attraction to.
And really the point of that is to make sure that if somebody wants to come to us and ask for a CRA, a TIF, whatever it might be, here are the parameters that they need to meet before we will even consider it. And even if they consider it, there are some guidelines in there and agreements that they're going to have to sign along the way that make sure that if they at some point in the future fail to deliver, they're acknowledging that they're paying us back for whatever it is that was agreed to, or if they get a CRA but then fail to meet their ends. It's really upfront providing some teeth and some extra layers of protection for us so that should something happen, the example I can think of is probably the Sovereign TIF, where we've entered into the development agreement there. When we were first meeting with them, there was parameters that they would have had to have provided us to even be considered, and then along the way it would provide us with opportunities for clawbacks if they were not able to do what they said. And it just is another sheet where they're acknowledging that they are going to be a good actor and do what they set forward.
Right, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was our fiscal updates. The third, and as I mentioned in the beginning, our third and fourth chapter, our third chapter is strictly our records retention policy. So we would like to put this policy under our fourth chapter, which is general policies. But that being said, there is just one slight update that we would like to make with our records retention policy, and that is to really update that the records are owned by the township and what staff are supposed to do when they terminate their services with us. It was silent on those items specifically, so we're really beefing up our records retention policy is what those changes are. Okay, and then the fourth chapter, this is the other. Pretty much we didn't know where to put them, so we made a chapter called Other. I would like to call this General Policy, this chapter, to rename it to General Policies. And really, there are 2 policies that we're updating. Currently, 4.3 is called the Drone Policy, because we were combating a few issues with aerial apparatus, not just drones, but we had flyers and rockets that people wanted to launch. We named it more generally from a drone policy to an aerial apparatus policy. So we added language to include other manned and unmanned aerial devices such as rockets, hot air balloons, gliders, that kind of thing. And then also we are keeping that function in there that they have to apply for a permit to fly these on township policies. The second one is a new policy with how technology changes and will continue to change. By the time we approve this policy in January, we probably have to update it again, but is the generative artificial intelligence policy. So this is really addressing the guidelines and the ability for staff to utilize artificial intelligence in the workplace, and when they can and when they can't do that. And then the stipulations on if they do, we are to inform others that this was generated by AI, just to be that transparent level of government still.
And to put some rules in place, because it's so new, like you're not allowed to put data into it.
Right.
Because we don't know what's going to happen to that data at the end of the day. And so really, this is safeguards for the township, and it's to make sure that if folks are using it, they're using it in the appropriate fashion. Another nuance of it is ensuring that it's not being used to make decisions. AI is not perfect. There are plenty of examples out there of how it has done things that perpetuate inequities or that will provide racial or whatever bias. An example that I've seen is that LinkedIn was using a generative AI to screen folks for financial advisor jobs, and they were skewing heavily toward white males because as they looked at their algorithms, a lot of Michaels were employed in financial services jobs. And so it's recognizing that while the tool exists, we cannot use that to make decisions because it is not at a point where it can make sure that, and in this case, LinkedIn actually got sued, and I think they lost the lawsuit pretty heavily because they were discriminatory. It wasn't intentional, but that's because computers can't factor for things like that just yet. So
I just had a discussion with somebody about this, and he's a major university department head, and his exact quote to me was, "You'd be shocked at some of the scholars that that you respect that use AI for their scholarly journals." To do summaries and stuff like that, and to do starting a research. It's a significant problem because from a research methodology point of view, you take the idea that, because AI just builds on what's already there, and you never get an opportunity to change the direction of knowledge or build new theories because it just builds on the old theories, which may not be accurate. So I take my Thomas Kuhn here and say, hey, it's time to break the mold. Sometimes it is time to build new theories and explore, and that's how we find new knowledge.
Sure. AI
is going to keep the same knowledge, just recycled, which may or may not be accurate and may not be in context. So I think it's a significant issue, and it happened overnight. It's like one quarter I didn't see any AI stuff. In the next quarter, everything was AI. It's amazing how quickly it happened. And I could tell it right away because just of the language choice and stuff like that, and everybody's got the same paper all of a sudden. Not in terms of like plagiarized word for word, but just in terms of what they're arguing in the paper. I might as well, if I read one, it would be the same thing on 75 of them. And it's so disturbing from an academic point of view that I want my students to think critically, but I want, people that are at the township to think critically too, because that's how we solve problems. And AI isn't going to do it. And I think this is a significant move. I would suggest that we not use it hardly at all, because it doesn't make new knowledge. It doesn't solve problems. It just takes the information that's already there.
Yeah, and the important part about having the policy is so we can set those parameters to make sure that folks, if they are using it appropriately. At the end of the day, to your point about new knowledge, it'd be interesting to see if once we adopt a policy, if now that's the only policy out there and AI is using that to generate all the other generative AI policies for governments. But because this is a new space, and to your point, there aren't a lot of existing policies here. And so this was drafted based on advice that we had received at different trainings and seminars from legal folks along the way.
Good, because it's going to become, like I said, I saw it as a teacher like overnight. It just exploded on the scene, and I think, and now I know teachers that use it for grading, which is just remarkable. I think we're going to see a whole set of problems in the next couple of years with AI, and I'm glad that it's not a perfect policy, but it's a start, and we're going to start to get ahead of it and just think about what we're doing. Mm-hmm. I think that's the important thing, is think about the long-term implications of what we're doing. Sorry, I had to get on a soapbox about that because I think it's well worth discussing.
Yes.
The direction we're heading with that.
Definitely. All right. The last three sections of the policy book. 5.0 is our public services policy, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this work session, is that we are looking to merge 5.3 and 5.21 to clean up that language, so we have a better special event policy and how we utilize our parks to make it fair for the public usage and also for exclusive usage, how we can marry those two components. And then also our tree policy, 5.24 and 5.27, to also merge and clean up that language as well. And then as far as chapters 6 and 7, there was no other major changes within the other departments either. So that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Nice job.
Not at this time, but I'm sure I will when I
Oh, I'm
get
sure.
into it a
I'm
little
waiting
further.
So at this moment in time, I would ask also if you all have any direct feedback or discussion that you would like to have quickly around the first part of the work session on the capital. Specifically, what I'm looking for recommendations is any changes to the proposed capital plan for next year and the stance of the board as it comes to the sort of policy recommendation about budgetary surpluses.
So let me make sure I understand this. You said 75% of the surplus will go back to the,
That's my number. If there's a different number, open to conversations. I figured that was a starting
no,
point.
that's fine. I mean, that's just,
Love deferred maintenance.
yeah.
That's
I mean, I think that's sorely needed. I mean, you know, and when you're telling me vehicles are 30 years old, it's like, well, it's time to address that. What I'd like to do, and I don't know if this is doable, and again, I'm for incremental change. I think that government change sometimes needs to be in small bites. But of that surplus, and again, some of it might be, this might take some bookkeeping, this might take some accounting challenges because of fund balances. But I'd like to take a certain percentage, a low percentage, maybe 5, that goes back into the capital improvement, capital reserve fund.
So if it's from the general fund, yes.
Right.
If it's any of the other department funds, we would not be allowed to do that.
But if we're giving general funds to a certain department, we can reduce it by that amount.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. And I think the general fund surplus will be treated a little differently than the other departments, mainly because the capital reserve exists, and the capital reserve is intended to allow us to make bigger picture strategic decisions along the way.
But again, you know, it's just like last year, I think that there was, I don't know, maybe $5,000 left over, and I'm like, let's put it in capital reserve, because, you know, I'm a kind of a Dave Ramsey, like, not when it comes to this, and I'm like, it's the habit. It's the habit of doing it, and it's structuring it so that we continue to save money in that capital reserve. I mean, I don't care if it's 2.5% or 5%, but I'd like to have some percentage that's left over to kind of plan so that we have a long-term strategy to deal with just some of the general. I mean, you spoke about this building. It'd be nice to wake up knowing that if we have to do some significant upgrades or maintenance, that we're sitting there with $7 or $8 million ready to go or something.
Sure.
Or that if we need something else, that we can transfer that over. I
Other
don't know how
feedback?
the other two feel about that, but that was my first.
That said, anytime we came into a need, we could start looking around to the departments for money for it.
Sure.
If something happened to this building that was unanticipated, and we need to get some money out of a department that has a surplus, then, you know, we could do that and pay them back in another year or whatever.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
From an accounting point of view, that's acceptable.
Not necessarily. If the department isn't operating out of this building, that's where it gets a little tricky. With fund accounting, we really have to make sure that if it's, say, the fire district, that it's being used on fire buildings. If it's police district, it's police buildings. Parks is different, and community center, because they're funded through the general fund, so you do have that sort of back end there. And roads would have to be 4160. So really, you're looking mainly at the general fund when it comes to this building.
And then all the departments have an administrative overhead cost here, if you.
They do, but we don't.
Because we generate a lot of expenses here.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily do that sort of chargeback. I know that does occur in other communities. That's not been something that we've done here. And that would be a way that you would be able to recoup those. So I remember being in Hamilton County, there was actually a very long process that was probably 3 months long to determine where all the money got charged back for all the different departments as it related to sort of the centralized
And
operations.
in an industry with job costing,
Yep.
the jobs I sold always did well, and people would try to bill their expenses against my jobs just because they were at a higher management level,
Sure.
and I've got some good stories about that for another time.
Yep.
So I think we're getting close to our.
Yeah, we got 6 minutes.
And I'd also like to connect one more suggestion, and I don't know how the other two feel. I still am a big proponent of beginning a and I don't know if we spin it off like the CIC, a private nonprofit Friends of the Parks, where we start to maybe fundraise or an auction, black tie event, so we begin to start to fund the parks externally too. Again, I don't think it's going to amount to much at first, but you can't start at $1 million a year. You got to start small. And my point to all these things is building long-term projects that are sustainable without tapping tax dollars for it.
Sure. So that was it on capital.
So we're still in an open meeting, and we're just going to get to the next part of the meeting shortly, so we don't need to.
Right, no.
We would have to close this meeting to then open our regular meeting, so.
Because I want to get a little 3-minute break in here at some point.
Okay.
And
I'll
then
motion to close this meeting if we're no one has.
I was just going to make a suggestion that as you all have thoughts, feedback on policies, capital, please reach out to me or Tiffany, and we'd be happy to walk through any of those questions that you all have.
And I'll second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orge?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
So we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. It's time to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for October 22nd, 2024. Oh, sorry, we can't start. Our fiscal officer isn't here yet to take roll call.
I can take roll call if you would like. Trustee Ulrich?
Here.
Trustee Unger?
Here.
Trustee Waller?
Here.
Okay. I would like to invite Troop 710 up here, please, and to start us off in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And before we sit down for a moment of meditation, I would like our thoughts and prayers to be about Rhonda Lehman. She has been in our CPA, our CFA, a long-term residence. Jeff has the shirt on. We just need her prayers for her and her family. I appreciate that. Would you like to say anything about your troop while you're all standing up in here?
Use the microphone.
Okay.
I get a hot mic. Now I'm
Yeah.
in trouble.
That way Waycross picks up your comments.
Yeah.
If you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Dale Sparks. I'm the Scoutmaster, Troop 710, that is based out of Northwest Community Church. So we are here in Colerain Township, and I just wanted to thank everybody for hosting us. What the Scouts are here tonight for is to get a little bit of an understanding of government in function as opposed to what they read in civics books. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
we
you.
hope you learned something. Thanks for being here tonight. Well, we have approval of minutes. We have to wait for Jeff for the approval of minutes, sorry.
Are we ready with the proclamation for the?
Yep, right here, so.
Okay.
All eyes are on you.
We're ready for approval of minutes, Jeff.
All right, I'll motion to approve the minutes.
You have to introduce them.
Thank you, Board. Sorry. I recommend a motion for the approval of the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting from September 24th, 2024.
I'll motion to approve those minutes.
I will second Matt's motion.
Any discussion?
No comment from me.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Our next is a presentation.
The next item is a presentation. It's a proclamation, which I believe I just handed to Dan
I think Matt's going to read it.
for Matt to read.
Okay. Certainly. For the proclamation for the 60th anniversary of the Colerain Historical Society in Colerain Township, Ohio. Whereas the Colerain Historical Society was founded in 1964 by Ruth Wells and other members determined to preserve Colerain Township history, and whereas the Colerain Historical Society originated the Memorial Day ceremony at the Dunlop Station Cemetery, the remembrance continues today with Colerain Township, the Historical Society, and others, and whereas the Colerain Historical Society has actively preserved Colerain Township history by obtaining important historical items, family history, stories, and photographs, they partner with Colerain Township to preserve historical cemeteries in the township, and whereas the Colerain Historical Society has made available to the public their collection items, family history, and other information while seeking opportunities to increase awareness of the Society's mission, they partner with community groups to gain and or give information to preserve Colerain Township history, and whereas on their 60th anniversary, the Colerain Historical Society looks forward to the future so that they, quote, learn from the past to live in the present and build for the future, end quote. Be it resolved that in recognition of the Colerain Historical Society, the Colerain Township Board of Trustees hereby proclaim Wednesday, November 20th, 2024, as a special day of recognition for the Colerain Historical Society to acknowledge their 60th anniversary and their many contributions to the residents of Colerain Township. I will motion to approve that proclamation.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes, with the comment that the Historical Society really does some fantastic work, and I really appreciate the volunteers and the amount of time and especially the passion that they put into it. I've been here 6.5 years, and I've seen some really good things come along because of their work. So I'm a yes.
And thank you for keeping our history alive.
Mr. Waller?
Yes, and I'll just kind of piggyback on Mr. Unger's comments. I don't think I've been to a lot of local historical societies, and I don't think there's anybody that comes close to what Colerain has in terms of their collection. It's incredible. So for our young scouts here, if you want to learn more about Colerain, talk to the Historical Society. They have primary sources from Colerain Township history, and you can find out an awful lot about what's gone into the township and some interesting stuff about its past. So for that reason, I'm a yes, and thank you so much for everything you guys have done.
I think it makes perfect sense to invite the members of the Historical Society up for a photo as well, should you all entertain that.
Come on down.
Now you get to see her so
I always make the same joke every time. You need me in the front?
We thank you very much for all this that you're giving to us. If you want to come and visit the museum, we do have it right across the hall. So anything that you'd like to learn, just come and talk to us on Tuesday. We're here before the meeting.
Thank you, and
Thank
thank
you.
you again for everything you do.
All right, Board, up next are a series of public hearings. The first public hearing is for a new TIF district to be created on the Staverman Farm property. I would recommend opening the public hearing.
I'll motion to open the public hearing for the Staverman Farm TIF.
I'll second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orich? Yes. Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to speak for the public hearing? And it, just as long as you stay on topic. All right, thank you. It doesn't look like there's anyone who wishes to speak.
Okay, so we motion.
All right, I'll motion to close the public hearing for the Staverman Farm TIF.
I will second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a public hearing for the Weiler Kia TIF District.
I'll motion to open the public hearing for the Weiler Kia TIF District.
I will second it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to speak for this public hearing? You swear to tell the truth, nothing but yourself, you got it?
Except when I'm fibbing. I don't fib. I do make mistakes. I will say this about the TIFs. I noticed that the Sovereign Neighborhood TIF dropped by about 40 grand. And so I am curious to how you guys account to the public for how you spend the TIF dollars, because it is my understanding that in a TIF district, for each one of these, the revenues generated must be invested back into that specific district. So I would like you guys to do a better job or make it more clear. Maybe you're disclosing it and showing it, and I'm just not recognizing it because I'm not smart enough. But I would like you to disclose what we are spending our TIF dollars on, you know, for all these districts. And I would like to know what your plans are for using the money for these TIFs. I would like you guys to express what you're going to use the profits from the TIFs in these 3 categories. I would like to know what you're going to spend that money on. Thank you.
Anybody else to speak about the type?
I motion that we close the public hearing on the Weiler Kia TIF.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Hey, Board, the next is a public hearing for a Wawa gas station on Colerain Avenue, Colerain Road. This is the former Clyde property, and I would recommend opening the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing for the Wawa Colerain Avenue TIF.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to speak for this public hearing? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? Yeah. Is it? I don't know. I won't. Okay. Is that a yes?
That is a big yes. I do also want to express that for all 3 of these TIFs, you had significant opposition from the residents, and that once you guys approved it, that opposition did not disappear. They are not happy. You are not doing for example, the one at Sovereign, that's a planned district, and you have not made them even comply with the existing plan development requirements. And so I'm hoping that the revenues that you are going to generate off these will address the numerous concerns that residents brought to you for all 3 of these, and that you guys find a way to not just listen to your residents when they express concerns, but you actually respond to them with logical, well-reasoned responses.
Anybody else?
Motion to close the public hearing for Wawa Colerain Avenue TIF.
I will second it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And the last public hearing for the evening is a public hearing for a TIF district. This would be Wawa on Blue Rock Road, and I would recommend opening the public hearing.
Motion to open a public hearing for Wawa Blue Rock Road.
Not as easy as it
Blue
sounds.
Rock Road, yeah.
And I will second Matt's motion. I would like to make one comment for the group that's in attendance. As a public body, we're compelled to allow people to comment on these things, and sometimes people comment and sometimes they don't, but it's more of a hear ye, this is what we are doing, do you have a comment? And that's why we do this. I'm specifically addressing that to the scouts so you can see how local government works.
And sometimes we even pronounce things correctly.
But we are compelled to take comments on this tax increment financing district, and that's why we have these hearings. And I think
Thank you. I
Matt
was just
opened
going to tell them what a TIF was.
But I'm a grown man saying Wawa over and over again, and it's very awkward for me, so.
Don't go to elders, the whole thing there. Mr. Waller's also a teacher over at
Yeah, it's
Elder High
LaSalle week, so that's why we've got this tension right now.
Okay.
Between Mr. Unger and myself, you know.
So Jeff?
You got to
We
open
open
the hearing.
Open the Blue Rock TIF.
Yeah.
You just need to call a vote.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Would anyone like to speak at the hearing? You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
The actual statute does not say you have a public hearing and you sit there and dead stare your residents and do not respond to them. The statute actually says you are to listen to their concerns and incorporate their answers to their concerns into your decision. So you are wrong when you inform the Boy Scouts that your job is to just listen, stare me down, ignore me, and the hundreds of residents who have spoken on all three of these TIFs. You know, that's not your job, just to disregard them. The second component of the statute is to respond to them appropriately, not to ignore them.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Motion to close the public hearing for Wawa Blue Rock Road TIF.
I will second it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, now we've come to the part where it's called Citizens Address, and the citizens that want to speak at the podium fill out a form like this, and we call them up. And Carrie, do you want to come up and speak? I'd like to speak at the end, please. Whether it's just you and, Dave, you want to speak first? No, she has to first. She has something. Yes. Okay, where did you leave it at? I'm so sorry. Okay, he'll get it for you.
Chief will bring it in a second.
Oh, there's a couple back there. Sorry, we didn't break. Thanks, Chief. Okay. Andy McCarthy. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I'm going to speak on behalf of my father. He's a bit hard of hearing, and give you guys all a copy of this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Oh, we just received the voicemail from you
Sure.
a couple hours ago. Yep. All right, so I'll be brief at this. Like I said, my name is Andy McCarthy. I was a Colerain resident for 20 years, and I'm speaking on behalf of my father and what's going on with his property that one day I hope to inherit. Pay attention, Boy Scouts. All right, I'm kidding. But we received a voicemail from Mr. Jeff Weckback this afternoon, so I can only assume that this issue is going to be tabled tonight until we get through discussions, because we can go through this list here, but the bottom line is that the township's allowing playground equipment solutions to build on property that is not theirs. Any questions?
I'm looking for it right on here right now.
Yep, take your time.
And during citizens' address, we listen to you and we will respond. We don't, you have 5 minutes, and so we don't take your time
Okay.
for the 5 minutes. So whatever you want to say in 5 minutes, and then.
So I should keep going?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It is in consent items, just,
Yes, in
Okay.
consent, but he's in citizen address, and we have.
right.
The clock is not up, but we do have an alarm.
Please continue, sir.
Just go ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess I would like to know what the next steps are on how we get this resolved and what the township's going to do, and if my father's going to receive payment for the property that has been built on. I don't know. This is my first time, so I'm here seeking advice. I guess that's...
I'm sorry, I'm just reading it right now, so.
Yeah. Well, she said 5 minutes, so I
Yeah, we
figured...
had 5 minutes, so, and we address after all citizens' addresses are done.
Okay.
And this is a discussion item for later in the meeting, so.
Right, well, that's why I brought it up, because it's like the second to last thing on the agenda. And since, like I said, we received a voicemail from Mr. Wetbach, or Wetbach, I'm sorry. Honestly, I didn't know if it was worth our time to be sitting here for 2.5 hours for you guys to just say it's going to be tabled. So, I guess at the end of the 5 minutes, you can tell us if we should sit or we should stay. Or I'm sorry, stay or leave. I'm good.
You're good. You're fine. If you're done. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And board, while I'm trying to get my computer to cooperate, I am,
Is Matt your father?
Andrew?
Is the other one your father?
Yes.
And so, okay, so he's not going to speak?
No, like I said, it's hard
Okay.
to hear him.
Okay.
I'll pass everything on to him.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and board, while I'm trying to get my computer to work, in the meantime, I'll keep track on my phone so that you all are aware when 5 minutes hits.
Okay. David, you want to? Go ahead.
Good evening. Oftentimes I come to the trustee meeting in the hopes of, as the Scouts have, learning about our government at work. And I appreciate getting to hear that from you and from those that are in the room. It's a great process. As the president of the Chamber of Commerce, I'm Dave Moravec, and I just wanted to share 5 things, just for those that are listening on Waycross Media and those that are in the room. The Chamber of Commerce here in Colerain has grown to 260 businesses across the community. It's a phenomenal amount of growth for the amount of time that I've been here, and we have tremendous support for our 10th anniversary. So I just wanted to share that. We continue to grow when many other chambers of commerce do not. And talking to my counterparts across the state, I talked to one chamber not too recently, that gains 200 members per year. However, they lose 200 members per year as well. So we really appreciate the business support. Secondly, we're going to have a ribbon cutting. I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of it at the Kroger store next Friday. Not this coming Friday, but a week from Friday on
8 a.m.
8 o'clock a.m., yes. Please come out and support the grand reopening of the Kroger store at the corner of Colerain and Springdale. You'll be able to take that nice, freshly paved road to get there. So awesome that that's happening. Our leadership breakfast and annual meeting for our chamber membership is November 20th. We're going to have several leaders in the community, especially educational leaders, that will be there to answer questions specific to the issues that are at hand in our community. We do this every year as an opportunity to make those public servants available through the Chamber of Commerce to do that. There is a small cost for those that are not chamber members to attend, but that's November 20th at 8 o'clock in the morning. Second to last is the Colerain Hope continues to support nonprofit organizations in our community. We have now 42 nonprofit organizations a part of the Chamber of Commerce, and many chambers of commerce hold nonprofits at arm's length because we serve as a nonprofit as well. And we continue to grow our membership in nonprofits to be able to make our community a better place to live, work, and play. And the collaboration that takes place at these Colerain Hope meetings on the second Thursday of the month, phenomenal. Side by Side and Colerain Hope will have an open house on December 5th at their new hub location at 1131 Dallas Boulevard, up by the Wendy's store, Wendy's location up on Hamilton. And lastly, we've continued to provide support for nonprofits through our Chamber of Commerce, through our new 501c3 foundation. We've had requests, but not as many requests as we'd like from those organizations to provide for funding across the community. So if there's a nonprofit that's out there looking for a little bit of help, there is a process through the Chamber to be able to provide that. So if you have any questions, let me know.
So you said second Thursday of the month for the Colerain Hope. What time are those usually?
3:30 till 5 o'clock. And they do rotate locations in 2024. In 2025, they will take place at the senior center on a regular basis.
And you have those locations posted on the chamber website.
We do, yeah.
And congratulations on the growth. I mean, when you came aboard, I think you came aboard maybe a month or two after I did, or maybe right
I
around.
started February of 2020.
Yeah, I started January of 2020, so it's, I don't know how I remember that. Usually my memory's terrible, but I know that it's been a great, tons of people joining, and a lot of people outside of Colerain too, a lot of businesses, which I think is good because we expose them to Colerain and hope maybe they expand here, so thank
And
you
there
so
are
much.
many businesses that provide services that we don't have within our community.
Right.
So,
And your breakfast are always fantastic.
thank you.
Do a job. You and your wife, I have to put your wife in there.
Thank you.
Okay, Carrie Davis, please.
Sometimes I hate doing my job, which is telling the truth. And but the first truth that I will attest to is our Colerain Historical Society is phenomenal. They are my favorite group in the whole township. They stay out of politics and they work their butts off. And they have done a fantastic job. Now, Mr. Moravec is a different story. Since you guys schedule your C.I.C. meetings in a manner such as to not allow anybody to give public comments, I am forced to use my time now to give a public comment. Mr. Moravec is no longer, I believe, and I don't mind if being corrected, no longer a citizen of Colerain Township. When he was appointed to the C.I.C., the requirement was that you must be a registered voter from Colerain, and he is no longer a resident. To the best of my knowledge, I believe he lives with his new wife in Green Township. So I think that needs to be addressed, and I think the fact that the C.I.C., I applaud the chamber being involved in on the C.I.C. I think their voice is imperative, but there are people on that board who actually live here. And I think somebody on that board should be appointed, not someone who doesn't, because many members of the chamber have complained to me and thanked me for calling out the chamber. Excuse me, Dan, I'm speaking.
I'm writing the notes on what
Okay.
you're saying, Carrie.
Okay,
So
I just like.
Continue on with your time. I know you've got a lot of things to talk about. So.
I do. But the reason our chamber has grown so much is because we are recruiting businesses from outside of Colerain to be a member of our chamber. And your members, they are not happy about this. They have thanked me for calling it out. So we are just taking members from other communities and bringing them in here. And our plumbers are now competing against plumbers in Green Township, where Mr. Moravec lives, and is competing with accountants, all these businesses. So sometimes growth isn't always a wonderful thing. I will say his Colerain Hopes, he accosted me outside of one of the meetings because I run a nonprofit called the Greater Community Groups, and told me I was not welcome at his group because of the things I say at meetings. A clear violation of my free speech rights, and told me I was not welcome to attend their meetings anymore. And I find that disturbing that he's selecting them. But what I do like about the chamber is their projects. And the fact that they're doing a mural, which I asked you, Dan, to support my nonprofit in doing a mural almost 6 years ago, and you refused to assist me, and because we wanted to do a mural. I would ask today that when you approve the mural, which is a wonderful idea, that you do take responsibility for what is going to be on that wall. It says you have no control. Well, you have all the legal control when you approved it with the engineer's office. But the chamber is not giving voice to any residents. I confirmed outside before the meeting, and he said no. Residents will not be included in this in any way whatsoever. It will purely be controlled by the businesses of the chamber. And I think you have a duty to the people who vote for you to make sure that their voices are included in this project. So I ask you to support the chamber's effort. It's a wonderful project, But I also ask that you please amend that agreement, that you will have the final say, so the residents will be guaranteed a voice in this major project. To go on, like I said, Mr. Morvek, I think we need to do something about that. This issue with this McCarthy dude, when I read that in the packet, it sounded like a quid pro quo to me. You're making this Colerain business pay you $5,000 a year and do all this extra work in exchange for you waiving their requirement to abide by property development rules. So from what I'm understanding, they're over there building on this dude's property, and they've called you multiple times, and now today, finally, they call him back. So I think you better put that aside, because that's in your contract, and it sounds like a legal bribe to me. I wanted to share with you, are you going to give me a little extra time because of my health issue?
It's not my decision.
I'm having trouble breathing.
Well, 1 minute, please, Carrie.
Thank you, Sugar Pie. That's sweet of you, because you don't have to do that. So thank you, I sincerely. Okay, I wanted you to, and I'm going to give you a document on this because there's never enough time. In July, I made a public records request simply for the number of car counts coming out of the Heritage Park in the month of the eclipse. That still has not been complied with, all right? And they didn't even do it in their regular reports. I made a request, the public records request, 6 weeks ago for all information you have on the Colerain Summer Events Committee, including the time that employees spent working on those projects. That has not been complied with. I requested an application to have a fall Halloween hike at Colerain Park. Guess what? You guys still haven't given me the application. You are obstructing someone because you don't like them from having events that benefit this community inappropriately. I think it's being done to shut me up. It's a freedom of speech issue.
Okay.
But you have also not given me one for the Christmas walk we had planned, and I will give you the rest of this in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you for the extra
Okay. You can come back up. I don't think. Well, he didn't use his 5 minutes.
It doesn't matter. He had his chance. So if you're going to
I would recommend not allowing for back and forth.
Okay, sorry. From legal counsel, they don't want to reply. But please, I'm sorry.
If there were no other citizen addresses,
Yeah,
then
more other citizens addressing. Did I miss anybody out there? Okay, then we can move on to administrative reports.
and while I'm working again on the computer issues, I'll invite Chief Alan Walls up to present the fire administrative report for the month.
Good evening to the board, and welcome to everyone who's here this evening and or at home watching online. I have the incident responses for September of 2024 for the Department of Fire and EMS. There were 825 EMS incidents. There were 197 fire incidents. We made 36 responses into the Pleasant Run contract area. We made 3 responses into the West College Hill Golfway EMS contract area. We had a fire in the 4300 block of Courageous with a $4,050 loss, and a fire at Clippard Park in the restrooms with a $4,000 loss. Property value lost for the month was $8,050. Value saved, though, was $300,470, and we have an 89.64% save rate for 2024. Average response time for the arrival of the first unit was 5 minutes and 28 seconds. And first unit on the scene less than 6 minutes was 67.96%. One other note, this past Saturday was the 60th anniversary of the deaths of Captain Leroy Hammett, firefighter Bruce Price, and Michael Hosfeld, the owner's son, at the tragic Western Cabinet Center fire in the 7600 block of Colerain Avenue. So please keep them and their families in your thoughts and prayers, please. And that's my administrative report.
Thank you. 60 years, that doesn't seem like that.
60 years. And for those that do or don't know, there's actually a memorial that's been dedicated on Colerain Avenue in the 7600 block, which is in front of the Duke Energy Center, to recognize the deaths of Captain Hammett, Firefighter Price, and Michael Hosfeld.
Chief, I know we talked about this when we did the groundbreaking. Mikey Best, which is Mikey Hosfield's daughter, who I taught her son when I was at St. Henry, we're going to invite her. She lives in southern Kentucky now, I think.
Yep, correct.
We'll be inviting her as well as the relatives to the firefighters as well.
That's correct.
Nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
She couldn't make it last time. I think she's 5 or 6 hours away.
Yeah, it was within a day or two that we spoke, and because of the distance, she was unable to make it.
But I know that she was, she's named Mikey after Mike.
Right.
And I know that she was very touched that when we had the monument, the remembrance there.
Yeah, and it was firefighter Phil Klug who sort of headed up that project. Phil has since moved on and actually retired from the fire service, but kudos to Phil for kind of flying the flag for that one. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next administrative report will be delivered by Police Chief Ed Cordy.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Month review of September for the police department. We responded to 3,727 calls. It's 124 calls per day. We continue to trend a little bit higher, 2-3% higher than we did last year. We're probably easily going to hit 46,000 calls for the year, which once again will put us at the second busiest department in Hamilton County, outside of the city of Cincinnati. For the month, we conducted 201 traffic stops, handled 156 crash reports, made 87 arrests, 8 OVIs. We had 2 use of forces, which were both tasings, 1 vehicle pursuit, and 2 internal investigations. As usual, there's no rhyme or reason. The busiest days were Monday, followed by Sunday, and continue to be static, or very steady and busy between 9 a.m. and about 10 p.m. Code enforcement for the month, 313 inspections, 63 violations closed, 5 cases were sent down to housing court with a total of 5 abatements. Property maintenance, we had 42. And now that we only have Henry in the environmental crimes, its numbers are a little bit lower here, but illegal dumping investigations was 4, abandoned vehicles 19, resulting in 3 towed vehicles, 22 parking complaints, and 66 communications with the public. Stats for the impact team. They had 10 targeted traffic stops, handled 10 felony charges, 8 misdemeanor charges. They seized 4.4 grams of meth, 1 gram of fentanyl, 1 unit dose of fentanyl, 3.3 grams of cocaine, took 2 firearms off the street, had 2 canine deployments while helping the road with 43 details. They conducted 138 hours of surveillance and executed 5 search warrants. Again, it's incredibly important to have that team out there for what they're doing and what they're going to be bringing in.
Can you explain to these guys what an impact unit is?
So it's our proactive arm of the police department where they go out and they're actively, we get drug complaints or we see behavior that's indicative of drug activity. They go out and actively work the cases from the ground up and have controlled buys, have a couple different things that can go in that. And it's a long drawn out process to be able to build a case to actually go after a drug dealer. And that's essentially what their targeted focus is. An update on the police department staffing. We currently are at 56 officers and are actively recruiting. With the acceptance of the Department of Justice COPS grant of $1.5 million, this is going to allow us to increase our count back up to 62 through 2028. While that's great news, people are very actively recruiting our officers. If more leave, we're going to have to take a hard look at what our proactive areas such as code enforcement and impact team, and we're going to have a reassessment of being able to have those units out there. Any questions for me?
How old do you have to be in to get into the Citizens Police Academy?
21.
Okay, so we do have a wonderful program if you ever want to come and join our Citizens Police Academy when you get old enough. So it's a
We have a great program for them right now called Public Safety Cadets that they could actually reach out to, and we can put them up with it's a traditional Explorers program.
okay. Do they get to do a driver along?
They're working up towards that type of
Okay,
thing. It
kind of
takes
fun to
them
do a
little bit.
drive around.
What else? Anything?
No, thank you so much.
All right, perfect.
Chief?
Thank you,
Thanks.
Chief. Thanks for all your hard work.
Board, the next administrative report will be delivered by Assistant Administrator Tiffany Mays.
You gave us so much so already. More to come.
Okay, board, thank you for having me back. Our public services dashboard will begin with vehicle counts. Again, this is not a head count of those that visit our parks. This is a vehicle count. So Clipper Park was at 64,608 for the year so far. Heritage Park is at 54,041 vehicles for the year. And Colerain Park is 52,457 for the year. And this is, Colerain Park visits are the highest they've been post-COVID, and I would attribute that to the two new playgrounds that we've just completed on that project. Also, I'd like to point out that where we're at with 2024 year-to-date is also higher than our pre-pandemic numbers, which is a great sign, because as we know, during COVID, the parks were utilized at a higher rate because you couldn't really do anything else. So, our litter program, we are at 1,517 bags of trash for the year. That's a lot of garbage. So, props to the guys that are out there, picking up all that garbage and litter and unsightliness that's throughout the township. I believe that's that's it for my report. Thank you.
So I have a little bit of a loaded question for you. But I kind of zipped it when we were pursuing grants from SORTA, but multiple times I've seen our litter gatherers at the SORTA bus stops picking up litter, and seeing how that they pass along this large transportation tax to the county, and see fit to part of their selling position on that was that they were going to redistribute that through grants to different jurisdictions in the county, and they saw fit to give 80% to the city of Cincinnati, which I think Colerain, I don't know what the number is, but Colerain Township probably adds what?
If you were to look at the numbers on a per capita basis, there's about $30 million in the fund. If you distribute it just purely on a per capita basis throughout the county, there would be $2.5 million per year to Colerain. In no 1 year of the grant have we requested nor received that dollar amount.
So I guess I'm wondering if we don't feel that SORTA is being more cooperative, I'd like to just bill them for the litter gatherers at their bus stops. Because, we're not asking for the bus stops here, and I understand that that's part of commerce, but at the same token, they're passing on this large sales tax increase to residents. By the way, the city of Cincinnati residents who are getting 80% of the funds also had their income taxes reduced. So they're getting, the city of Cincinnati is getting out of this more services through redistribution of sales tax in the county. They're getting lower income taxes. They're getting more bus routes, and we seem to be getting 1,500 bags of trash out of it because the bus stops seem to be the ones that are hit the hardest, and on a continual basis. In fact, I've seen people. I had us put benches and trash cans there, and it's so frustrating because where there are benches, people roll up carts and sit on the carts and leave those sit there. And where there are the trash cans that we pay to have serviced 3 times a week, I think, 3 or 2.
I think it's 2.
2 times a week. People will litter right next to the trash can. And I'm tired of Colerain citizens having to pay for this, the tax, a rollback on Cincinnati income taxes. I'm done with it. Now, this isn't aimed at you, obviously. My frustration has boiled over to the point where I'm not going to take it anymore. I mean, we were promised that all this money was going to be given out to counties, to individual jurisdictions in the county, and to hear the argument that our non-existent sidewalks are in good condition is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm about ready to camp out outside of Sorta and ask for my money back. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, to think that that board sat there and redistributed 80% of Hamilton County tax dollars, 80% after they promised. You pass this and, there'll be all kinds of sunshine throughout the county. And you know what we got? We got some more bus routes, but now we've got more garbage to pick up because they can't police themselves. So I'm to the point, and I don't know what the rule is on this. Maybe it's a legal thing, but I'm to the point where I'm going to send them a bill. And maybe print it up for me, and I'll take it to the next Sorta meeting. Because I ain't paying for it anymore, and neither are you. We're done. We're finished. And I don't know what needs to be done to do it, but I'm done with it. And if Sorta's watching this, I'm going to come there and I'm going to bring the bill. And if you throw it away, I'm going to bring it again. Because we're not putting up with it. The way that we were ranked second on the rubric for having those sidewalks put in. Sidewalks for children to get to school. That is the responsibility of the county. I have never been more frustrated with the county government my entire life. And Sorta is an accessory to this. To a school that, by the way, can't afford to provide school bus transportation. This is their responsibility. They're ducking it, and while they're ducking it, their hand is in your pocket. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take that. I've sat here for 2 weeks when they came out with their decision, and I talked to Mr. Weckbach on the phone, and he got an uncharacteristic silence from me because I was boiling over at the idea, and I know that all administration is boiling over too. And I'm like, all right, don't say anything, don't screw it up, because he's going to talk to him, and maybe he can make him get some common sense here. But I know it's silly season with elections and stuff like that, but I am, I'm capable of taking this to any level we want to take it, to the news, to the Cincinnati Enquirer editorial. But I think it needs to be pointed out that what they perpetrated on the people of Hamilton County is just nothing more than a scam. Nothing more than a scam with his taxes. And every time we pass a TIF, I have a grin inside because I know that we're taking away income from the county that they have to come up with. And they deserve it, because what they've done is just unconscionable. All right, I'm done. Sorry.
So,
You get all that, Tiff?
If I can remind Trustee Waller, I am an ice hockey referee, so that's nothing, sir.
So we had a resident during citizen address who oftentimes says that they listen or watch the meetings on replay. So they said that they had filed a records request for park counts at Heritage. I don't know where that was filed. I haven't seen that, but it's right out in the public view. So if you go to colerain.org, at the bottom of the page, you will see where we have a link to our transparency. We've got a lot of stuff out there. So you go to data transparency, because that's where we would keep these data reports. And what I'm going to do to make this faster, I'm going to type park. There's park vehicle visitors. And we can then click on, when this loads, Heritage Park. We can click on 2024. And you can see the park counts when this loads in a second for each month of 2024. So you can see that in April, I can't read that from this distance, but that was how many people came through the park in a vehicle. In March, there were more. In May, there were less. So all this information is out there. I'm hoping if that resident is watching or on replay or listening, that they take advantage of our open data and see the information that is out there for all the public to see at any time. For others in attendance, there are a number of other reports on here. There are crime reports, there are fire and EMS reports, code enforcement, all kinds of data that you can think of, because we pride ourselves on our transparency. Okay, with that long spiel, the next report is David Miller out of the Development Department. Everybody should always clap for David coming. to the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Yes, and we're.
So this is a development progress for September, and it's our zoning certificates that have been issued. So starting there at the top left, the permit total, permits requested for September were a total of 55. 46 were approved, 6 were withdrawn, 3 were refused. They didn't qualify according to our rules. We had 2 BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals cases, 0 in the Zoning Commission, and no subdivisions during this month. And then a breakdown of those permits issued. We had 3 new single-family homes that were issued permits, and so those are under construction. And we had 4 solar projects. 18 of the permits were commercial, 37 were residential. That would include your decks and patios and things such. So that's it for September. Any questions?
At this time, thank you, David.
Thank you, sir.
And to wrap up administrative reports, I do want to just kind of take a few moments for some special folks, both internally and externally in our organization. Today, I'm wearing a shirt to support Rhonda Lehman. We did a moment of meditation for her earlier. Rhonda is a genuine, overall, just kind and amazing person. And so any opportunity I can to show support, I will, even if that means sweating a little more in a trustee meeting because I'm wearing way too many layers. And I'm also wearing pink as my jacket to support all of those that are fighting breast cancer or have fought breast cancer. I believe almost all of us in this room have somebody that has probably been affected by that horrible disease. A couple other notes. I did want to extend a appreciation to our HR specialist, Renetta Edwards. She is being promoted away from us to another organization, Springdale. She's going to go on to become their HR director. She's done a lot of amazing work for us when she was here with the township. As her and I were sitting down today, just kind of talking through some of her things that she's been a part of, rolling out a new all online system for our benefits enrollment, to navigating COVID and how that affects employees, to recently rolling through a new way of doing insurance with self-insurance. That's saved us a ton of money. And so she will be missed, and we wish her well as she moves on to bigger things at another community, and I know that they will be happy with what they get there.
And she's got a wonderful personality.
She does. And so on that note, we are hiring for that position if anybody knows any good HR people. And finally, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize why we're missing a couple people in the room tonight, and that's Helen and Jeff. They are actually at an award ceremony for Glenna Carter. Glenna Carter is our office manager, and she was recently named by the American Society for Public Administration in Cincinnati as the Administrative Support Professional of the Year. That is quite the honor that she is being bestowed on tonight, so they are there to support her. And we certainly appreciate everything that Glenna has done and will continue to do for our organization. Those that know her know that she's the one that typically answers the phone first, greets you when you walk into the office. And overall, she's been a culture champion for us. Several years ago, we started to unroll what I would call non-traditional titles for some folks in the office. She was lucky enough to be designated the Positivity Poobah. Because we know that, when you're going to go talk to Glenna, you're probably going to walk away with some positive attitudes, positive vibes. And because she sits at the front desk, she's also our Director of First Impressions. So there's just fun ways to make sure that folks know the importance and the value that they bring. And we are so happy for Glenna and what she does for our community and this great award.
Trustee report, I'll go first, I've got a little bit to say. With you guys being here, you got to see how wonderful our police officers do. Our firefighters are top in the nation for their statistics. But what you don't see is this whole report, this whole meeting, there's 278 pages. There's a lot of research, a lot of work that goes into this organization, keeping this business together. This is a business. And the people in this office, if you walk into our administration office anytime, the camaraderie, Renetta, Glenna, Everybody that works here gets along so well. We get so much work done. They are so positive about moving forward with Colerain Township. We have actually got such a wonderful, wonderful group of people. And if you ever want to shadow and see what goes on, we have a program for that too. You will see the best people that we can ever have working for us. That's done. Matt?
You can go ahead and go on.
Didn't you have a trustee report?
Well, hey, his trustee report will be probably a little, I'm not going to say anything, that's Matt's trustee report. To the scouts that are here, I am still a registered assistant scoutmaster. Although my son has gone on and he's 28 years old now, I still help out with Troop 24 when I can. Their meetings happen to be on Tuesday nights, and so are mine, so those instances have become a little bit fewer and far between. But I certainly appreciate what the organization does, and I know a lot of people that have gone on to really successful careers that started out with scouting. I started out as a Tiger Cub leader, and I was very proud that 2 of my 6 guys in my Tiger Cub den became Eagle Scouts. I've got an Eagle Dad pin from 4 different Scouts. When my son was active, I camped out every weekend for the 8 years that he was in, because we went camping every month. It was really a good time, and I certainly encourage our troop, and thank you so much to your leaders who give selflessly of their time to help you out and bring you to these meetings. The QR code for oh yeah, do you need something that was shown on the screen? Certainly, that's all public information, and if that was Tiffany's presentation, I'm sure she can arrange that for Mrs. May's presentation. I'm sure she can arrange that for you. But anyway, so hats off to the scouting programs. They do marvelous work. Just around here, and it was debated for several years, and the groundbreaking day has changed a few times, but out on East Miami River Road, Hamilton County is about to begin construction on a firearms training range, and I believe that groundbreaking is later this week. Is that still on schedule? Or
Friday afternoon.
Friday at 2 o'clock. On November 1st, the Kroger store, which, it seems like just yesterday they opened, they have done a reset, and they're having another grand opening on November 1st. To address a couple of let me start with this. Colerain lost a wonderful, very long-time citizen lately, and somebody I've known since I was a child, and this man's name is Fred Knapp, and Fred's a good guy, and he lived a good life here, and he has recently passed away, so my sympathy to the Knapp family. I give out local government. I love it. I give out my phone number all the time at these meetings. It's 513-404-3057. And as an example of a couple of the type of calls I get is there's an issue with our toddler playground, and I've worked on that with our assistant administrator, and it sounds like that's about to be resolved. Through the work of a lot of people here in our fire department and our police department, and our administration especially, we had a lot of activity out on Hawkhurst, which is north off of Springdale Road. I received a message from that resident today, and they are very pleased that things have calmed down and the problem property seems to have gone away. And so thank you to everybody who worked on that. About 13 months ago, we had 3 neighbors on Memory Lane come in with an issue, and that seems to have resolved itself, and things have really calmed down over on Memory Lane. Dave Moravec does awesome work and does awesome work for our chamber, and I encourage people to move their businesses to Colerain, and the first step of doing that is getting them involved in our Colerain business community. With regards to the public comments, we let anybody speak at our meetings that wants to speak, and we are a forum for that. And as I mentioned earlier, that's why we allow comments during our public hearings, and we do listen to what people say, and we consider it. And just as a little note for the scouts here, if you really want to learn what goes on in local government, someday maybe on one of your days off when it's not a public holiday, maybe go down to the courthouse and sit down at the courthouse, and you'll really see what goes on. I am a little bit of a nerd, and I subscribe to Cincinnati's favorite daily newspaper, which is the Cincinnati Court Index. I pay for it myself. It gets mailed to my home daily, and if you really want to learn what's going on locally, it has people that file wills, people that take out marriage permits. It lists bankruptcies for people that are filed bankruptcy. It lists everything going on in every courtroom.
Bankruptcies?
In the yes, every courtroom in the county, and it's a great way to learn what's going on in our court system. You're always welcome to set up a time to tour our firehouses or talk to our police chief. And I appreciate Scouts getting involved. I wish more young people took an interest in local government. And we do have a bit more of our agenda, so I will cut off my remarks right there. So thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, to the Scouts, thank you for coming out. You know, I've taught government first at St. Henry, Northern Kentucky, then now for the last 6 years at
The Purple School.
At a different school, yeah, at a purple school that's maybe playing in a game against LaSalle Friday.
Red School.
Yeah, the Red School, yeah. I'll see you guys there. And at Miami as a visiting professor for 10 years, part-time. You know, the first 5 or 6 years of teaching government, I skipped a section on local government, and then I got in local government, and I'm like, oh, okay, I was way wrong. This is where things happen in local government. I mean, these are the folks that are working hard for you to try to make changes, and these are the folks that if you show up and you call and you call Dan's cell number or mine, which is on the website, or Ms. Ulrich, that are going to respond to you and try to solve your problems. And it's the first place you start, and it may not be glamorous sometimes talking about zoning, but you know what? It's the non-glamorous things in life that get things done. So a shout out to that. Mr. Unger also mentioned the training center groundbreaking. So I was an advocate very early on. I felt that Colerain needed to get something out of this, but I was in an awkward position because we didn't have any leverage. It's hard to be in a negotiating position when you don't have leverage, and I'd like to thank Mr. Weckbach, who listened to me drone on and on and on about leverage and getting something, because we did get something that is going to be kind of costly. We're getting water connected to that site, which will open up the rest of that area to water connections. And in fact, I don't know how you hypnotized the city into saying, yes, we'll connect the water, because they then later called after they realized how much it was and said, are you willing to kick in something? And we said, no, that deal's done.
Yep.
Yeah, we're moving on. So thank you so much, because it's hard to gain something in negotiation when you don't have any leverage, and they own the property. And our only leverage is, look, I'll mobilize people and they'll be angry. And that was really all we had. The other thing is we have a thing coming up, and this is for the Scouts especially. I love this time of year. I teach seniors, and it's so cool because I registered at Elder about 30 people to vote. That one kid, I feel so bad for him. He's the most engaged person, and he turns 18 the 6th.
Oh.
And actually, he's got his mom convinced that he gets to tell her what to put on a ballot because he was late being born, and it's her fault. So he gets to choose who she votes for, all down the ticket. Like, he was asking me about issue 1 and the 2 tax items on and the judges and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So everybody please get out and vote. And for you Scouts, look, when you turn 18, that's probably not the first thing you want to do is go register to vote, but please do so. And a lot of people gave a lot for that right. And I tell people all the time, I will take you to the polls even if you're going to vote against me, because I think it's so important to have people vote, because we know statistically once you go vote, you're going to become more involved in your government, you're going to become more involved in community, you're going to become a better citizen. And you know what, even if you vote against me, I'm willing to take it, I'm not on the ballot, but if you vote against me, I'm willing to take you to the poll because we have a better society as a result of more people voting. And I firmly believe that from a philosophical point of view. So for everybody that, I know that, for the first time ever, it was hard for me to do. If Mr. Unger's a nerd, I'm nerd squared. I love going election day. I got to be the first person. I get there, so I'm the first person in line. I did absentee ballot this time. I know. You should have seen me putting stamps on. I put a full book onto that sucker.
They're 73 cents a piece.
I put 5 stamps on it. I put $4 worth of postage, so I think they'll get it. It's just, I guess I realized probably after 9/11 that if those folks who were just civilians, who were just going to work that day could die for our country and they did nothing whatsoever, I could get out and vote every year. And that's important. It's an important part of our freedom. It comes at a cost, and our cost is we need to be involved and we need to vote. And there's room in this country to have discussions about who we vote for. And I encourage you. By the way, if you want it, they're still looking for people. For those out in TV land, the Board of Elections is still looking for people to work day of the polls. I know Mr. Unger often does that. The pay's not great. The hours are long, but we need those people to oversee the elections. Both the Republican and Democratic parties are looking for people to pass out sample ballots. Please consider, whatever your flavor of the day is, volunteering for that party. Call the Democratic or Republican Party and consider passing out the Democrat blue or pink, Republican pink ballots, sample ballots. It's just something that we're really in our society that's a debt that we owe. We need to be out there, and please, everybody, get out and vote. And that'll conclude my report.
Okay, just to tell those people that worked hard and gave their lives, we have the Veterans Dinner, one of our most beautiful events. Friday, the 8th. It's a beautiful event for our veterans of Colerain Township and their families. Please call the township and come, and we'd love to serve you. It's our way of giving back to you. And also, wish everybody a very safe trick-or-treating, and happy Halloween.
Oh, and to the Weckbeck family who views Halloween as a national holiday,
Well, I think my spouse would argue that she does not view it as a national holiday. I view it as a national
there you
holiday.
go.
So.
And if I could just follow up on one of Matt's comments, anybody who wants to vote early, if you're coming from Colerain Township, work your way over to Norwood Lateral, go east on Norwood Lateral, get off at the Montgomery Road exit. As soon as you get to the top of the ramp, there's a sign that directs you to take a right-hand turn, and that will take you just over the bridge over the railroad track, and it takes you right into the Board of Elections, and you can go down there and vote and vote in person.
And they have weekend hours too. Saturday and Sundays are open.
I believe they're on this weekend. And for later, Chief Walls, I noticed I had a question, and we can talk about it later, but my question was, I was on 275 West yesterday, and there was a crash with 3 cars, and our fire unit was out there and a couple PD units. And when we invoice on these crashes, how do we invoice the person who's at fault, or do we invoice each one of them? Would be my question for later. So, but it looked like we had we incurred quite a bit of expense going out there on 275 West yesterday. So we can talk about that later. That's something I noticed. Carry on, President.
And Jeff Baker, I believe, had pointed out something that I'd forgot to share, if you would like to share that.
Sure. I don't know if this is public knowledge or not, but the Hamilton County Emergency Management Agency voted Colerain Township as the most resilient community in Hamilton County. So I thought that was a pretty neat achievement, and I think we have a lot to be proud of here. So.
Yes, absolutely.
And on that note, that award really speaks volumes to our police, fire, and public services, as well as the rest of our staff. But those 3 lines are front and center, whether it's massive winds, hurricanes that make their way through here, or remnants of them, and what have you. And so they all 3, and the rest of the community, we all do a fantastic job of getting out.
Do we have any new business?
We have several items of new business, the first which will be presented by Fire Chief Alan Walls.
And right before you start, Alan, this next part of the meeting, we're going to accomplish an awful lot. I don't know how late you guys are allowed to be out, but have at it, Chief.
Thank you. Did you want me to answer your question before I?
Sure, yeah, there was 3 cars in that accident. They had a lane and a half blocked. Who gets billed for it?
So, if there's 3 non-residents, all 3 get billed. If there's 1 resident and 2 non-residents, the two non-residents get billed. So essentially, it depends on resident status. And if there's 3 cars, they're non-residents, they all 3 get billed.
And so you get that information through Chief Cordy or whoever the police report that has an ID on it of who was involved in the accident. So that's how you would determine that?
That and our company officer who's on the scene would be getting driver's information.
Okay, well,
It's not always necessary to who caused the accident, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
It's a resident status.
Correct. Okay. All right, so my one item tonight under new business is a motion to authorize the Township Administrator to execute an agreement with MediCount for the Ambulance Supplemental Payment Program for no cost, and we recommend adoption of the motion.
I motion that we authorize the administrator to execute an agreement with MediCount for the ambulance supplemental payment program at no cost.
A second. Any discussion?
None from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. The next 14 items on the agenda will be presented by Police Chief Ed Cordy.
Thank
I believe
you.
they call that a filibuster, gentlemen.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for
tonight.
coming. Thank you so much.
Keep up good work.
And so the first of those items, this is a space and an opportunity for you all as a board to, 1, have an update on the rental registration program, but 2, to provide any direction to staff. We're roughly a year into the program, and we're seeing just over 80% compliance with the resolution. Happy to answer any questions that you all have.
All right, well, is it now?
Yes.
With regard to the rental registration program, I'm shocked to see 80% compliance. That's incredible. I guess this, you come up with a policy and it's not quite, it doesn't act like you think it's going to act, or it doesn't look like you think it's going to look. And when we went through the numbers, I guess for me, I feel like we're adding a cost to rental firms here without, and it's kind of like revenue neutral, which I guess is our goal. But for me, I kind of come to the belief that, and I don't know how the other two feel because you haven't really talked to them. We can't talk about it, but I've come to the idea that it might be better to have it as a one-time charge, and then charge it whenever a re-registration fee whenever the property changes hands, and that can be done. I don't know how we would if it can be done through like the recorder's office or something like that. But the idea that we're sooner or later this is going to be passed on, I think, to the people that are renting, and for some of the bigger complexes, I mean it's a big lift for them. That if it's an apartment with 8 or 12 units per building, I mean, we're talking about a significant cost as opposed to maybe somebody that has single family rentals that are at all kinds of different locations. I think there's an equity there.
I'm in total disagreement. It's a cost of doing business. They are conducting a business. It is the cost. Their rents are extremely high. They're making so much money right now. I think our rental registration is absolutely a lot lower than other municipalities. I pay $150 a year for my rental registration every single year. I think we still have a bargain at what ours are and the work that's required. And when you look at these abatements and see where, a lot of our units are going and a lot of our money are going to these rental properties, I think it's a well-deserved fee.
But you don't have, it's a duplication of fees because they do have to register with the county.
It's a cost of doing business in Colerain Township. That's how I look at it. I'm sorry. I mean, I know we differ from that.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, it's reasonable people can differ on
Yeah,
different
exactly.
issues.
I mean, you have your
Yeah.
way.
I get that.
But I just know how much landlords are making, and that's why it's so advantageous for all these investors to buy property, because they are making so much more return on their money. So, and it's costing the township money also.
And getting back to my wonderful newspaper of record, the Cincinnati Court Index, I happened to notice in a recent edition that several of the one of the large rental companies that owns numerous properties, they just deeded over $1.8 million worth of their properties, which is probably 9 or 10 of their houses, to Unit 1, to that same company, second incarnation of it. So that's an example
That's
of where
exactly
they've
what I've been
changed.
telling you. They buy the house, they sell it to their arm length transaction LLC, they lower the tax base on the house,
Right.
and we keep
So I would say that because it's become a new owner, then perhaps that the fee, is that what you're?
Yeah, then you have to pay the fee again.
Well, it's
Yeah, because
there's no way
that
to keep-
particular company has moved, I want to say they own 400 or so houses in Colerain Township, at least the last time we discussed them. And they move them in giant blocks, just changing the names of them and setting up different LLCs or different corporations. And at that point, they should pay to re-register them, since they technically
re-register,
have
but I
a,
still think there should be a registration fee every year. If you're going to conduct business in Colerain Township, and that's our stipulation, that is a requirement that you register this vacant property, you register this rental property, and you make, we now know how many, they're still taking the owner-occupied credits. They are still taking money out of our pockets. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job with the rental registration, and if you have 80% compliance, that is showing you're doing the right thing.
Well, no,
I'm not belittling what you're saying. I'm just saying this program's working.
I would say that a year into it, with the 80% compliance, I would tend to favor Matt's position on it of, once they've got it registered, it registers again when it changes hands, and let's, bring it back up for discussion at the end of the second year and see how it's going, and maybe at that time we would reevaluate it.
Every municipality has it every
The one
year.
difficulty that I see is if there's not an annual touch point that's a requirement, you'll probably find that you'll have property managers turnover and things of that nature, to where we may be mid-year next year and unable to make contact with the appropriate parties, because take Vinebrook, for example. They've had folks just naturally turn over that manage those properties. And so now we've got old phone numbers, and we're spending additional staff time trying to track down folks, and we may not have success. To me, that's the one benefit to requiring a re-registration every year, is that it ensures that at least once a year your entire database is accurate. Whether or not there's a fee with that, I wonder what the compliance would look like with or without a fee. If there's not a fee, does the person feel as incentivized to fill out the paperwork? Because I know a lot of times folks, when we sent out the sort of soft rollout in year one, a lot of people just threw it out. But when they started to see that there was a fee associated with it, that's when we started to get the influx of calls, because folks then realized that, I actually have to do this thing. This isn't a voluntary or optional. So that was just based on the lived experience that staff had. I know we got a lot of phone calls. Once the fee was sent out on a letter, I think the whole first year when this was enacted, it was optional, and we really didn't have anybody take us up on that option.
Yeah, and I'll just interject just a little bit here. This is one of the major focuses that Robert Bolt was doing when he was part of the environmental crimes, and one of the major things that he focused on. And while it wasn't every single rental property was a problem house, that's not the case. No one's saying that. There was a large correlation between problem houses and being rental. So through this rental registration, through actually having a point of contact, a communication, an actual line of communication that we know we can get to this person to have a talk, we were actually able to impact our repeat calls to going there by being able to actually communicate directly with the landlord and say, this is what's going on at your residence. We've been there. Some of them, let's just talk about one from Burnside. one of the group homes that was shut down in Birdside, we went to that resident almost 100 times in a year span. That takes a lot of resources away from us. So by us having the ability to have a point of contact, talk to them, continue to have an open channel of communication, we were able to actually have a direct impact on our calls for service.
The group homes are still covered under the other.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
just
Right.
an example of how many times. But if I remember correctly through Robert's last emails that he sent out, he was somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 45 residents that he directly was able to work with through the rental registration, through the nuisance property, and be able to move some of the problem, out of our area, which drastically reduced our calls for going back to the same residents over and over again.
And I don't know if there's, were they single-family homes or were they multi-family units?
Typically, they're multi-family units less than 4 or single homes. I mean, I would say mostly single-family homes.
I kind of think that that's where the sweet spot in this is.
I think the dangerous spot, if I may, is just that we see the same thing with businesses. If we don't keep our hand on the pulse and being able to actively, continuously get updates of the nighttime manager phone numbers or who
Right.
is a point of contact, then we run into a point where we just have absent landlords.
And the alarm goes off for 36
never
hours.
get a hold of
Yeah.
somebody, and we never can truly make an impact on what we're trying to do. We would be able to do, again, this is a group home, but we would never have a way for us to be actually talking with a person like we did over on, we'll talk about that later, I'll update you on this. But it's important for us to continue to have a line of communication with that, and that's why having it yearly has been beneficial so far.
And Hamilton County does not charge any residents. It's the municipality that it's in. And when we did this research with Jamie, there was plenty of other communities that we.
Yeah, I believe if I remember at previous meetings, there is no charge for Hamilton County. Is that correct, Jeff?
I don't recall, so sorry.
David Miller has just said there is not any.
Okay.
So, but we are in compliance with many other communities that are having the same issues we are. We are not any different. We're a lot cheaper than some of them.
What are you looking for?
Any direction you all would like to give as a majority of the board, and if there is a motion that would indicate something to bring forward at a future meeting. If there are no motions, then we would move forward with the program as is for next year.
And currently in the program, you're compelled to re-register every year?
Yes. You're compelled to re-register every year. If your property changes hands and you do not update your information within 30 days, you have to re-register as well.
And I'm looking at the fee schedule. Oh, this is what you would recommend is 75, 250, and 500. What is it currently?
So these were just some alternatives that I was throwing out there if the board wanted to consider a different funding model. And this was under the understanding that if we wanted to get more aggressive to get from 82% to 100% compliance, recognizing that there might be some additional staff needs. And so in order to cover those additional staff needs, the recommendation was to increase the fee. And then I offered two sort of fee structures. One that continues to place the burden, I believe, on single-family homes, and the other that sort of keeps things as is and spreads it evenly between the different types of properties.
So and there might be a legal issue with this, because I think the problem more often lies with single-family homes. Would it be inappropriate to have a rental fee for just single-family homes?
You mean a fee change or a fee?
Just a fee for because with the idea that there are yards to take care of, there's increased maintenance. I think that we're punishing. I think it's punishment for some of the people that are not being the bad actors in this case.
Well, the difficulty though is there are certain apartment complexes that do have large volumes of calls. It's not every one.
Right.
And as you kind of see by the numbers and communities, I mean, there's about roughly 68 apartment communities, right? And so understanding that Some of those, not all of them are equal. Some of them are great. Some of them we rarely visit.
Can we incentivize the fee, the registration fee to number of calls per capita or something?
And so I think that's, the way it's currently structured is close to a per capita because it's based on the number of units that you have.
Per calls, I'm sorry, per calls.
And per call to me is a good question for legal, but in my mind, then we're starting to get into a punitive measure, which is similar to a mayor's court, which we're not allowed to have.
So in talking to a number of the landlords, their point is that, look, they're not there. You know, they might have management people, but they're not there. But I guess the Department of Justice statistics show that they want the bad actors out too. And it takes 7 months for them to find out that somebody's, on average, a bad actor. And they would like to have, and I don't know if it's a public record they can request or whatever, they'd like to have the 911 calls. So if they have an apartment on there that we've visited, you know, like 6 or 7 times in the last month, they can.
And that's an idea we haven't discussed, but maybe that's something that could be built into the system that when they're re-registering, they could check a box that would then say, hey, at the end of the month, I would like for a list of police runs for the past month.
I think we could actually do it a little bit easier with us having crime mapping, hopefully by the end of the year, up and running. They can actually sign up and get daily notifications.
Oh, that would be, because I've talked to a number of them that paid $5,000 and $6,000 for apartment complexes. And those are, and some of them have made efforts, and their calls have gone down significantly on some. I want to incentivize those folks because they go in and they clean out the bad actors. I don't want to punish them because that's like firing one teacher because the other teacher was bad. Or, you know, I mean, I guess my point is, I think there's a more creative way to handle this, and they would love the number. A couple of them I talked to would love to have that data from you guys. That you're making this many calls, and if the crime map works, they want to be a partner in solving this issue. Because, you know, the question that was posed to me is, what is your goal on this? And my answer was, we've got too many police calls. I want to reduce the police calls because we can't handle it. We don't have the money to staff it, and it's stretching the police too thin. So the bottom line is that whether we have a registration or not, my end goal on this is to have less calls to you guys. And however we get there, is this accomplishing it, or is there a better way of doing it? And I don't know that my way's better, but it's a different way. I wonder if we can include them in the process. And a couple of folks that their point to me was of the landlords was that, look, we want the bad guys out just as much as you do because they put a bad name to us, number one, and number two, you know, we can't compete with people that are cutting corners on different costs and not doing what they need to do for property maintenance. So I don't know. I guess my point is I want to have more discussion. Maybe at the end of the day we find out that the answer is this fee structure. I don't know, but I'm of the belief that we can be, if we cooperate with these folks, we can find a way. Ultimately, I don't want. To me, an end goal isn't registrations. An end goal is reduce costs. That's what I want out of it, and I don't know if that's shared by everyone. I mean, that's my goal, is to reduce the number of calls and to increase property maintenance, which is I associate with calls.
Renters go from rental to rental to rental. If they get evicted, they just find another place to rent. So it's not ever going to stop what you want to see happen.
From our perspective, it's all about accountability.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I mean, you can draw some correlations to some of these residents, just speculating here, that we have throughout the rest of the agenda that are probably going to be rentals. And if we don't have accurate and up-to-date information, it's going to be a lot harder for us to take action.
But we do now.
We do for now.
Yeah.
But
and if we make it so that they get charged when it changes hands.
And I believe that's what Mr. Weckwock was speculating. Is
Yeah.
If you go without a system that's not a yearly system, and it's even if there was no fee structure, we're not going to have 80% compliance anymore. It's people are not going to provide the updated information, and it's going to get to a point where we don't have anything at our hands to be able to work with.
Because right now, I think part of the incentive for folks to move forward with this, and it's touched on the memo, is that there is a process for us to hold them accountable if they don't register.
Right.
And so when they see that, then they do move forward through the curb process. And usually they come and they make their case to curb. And once the curb board says, no, you need to register, they go and register. Talking to Nick, who helps with the program, he said he's not seen one that did not register after that moment. If there's no teeth or no penalty or something to that effect, and I don't know to the extent that we could if there's not a fee associated with it, I question whether or not people would take it seriously and continue to register or update their information on an annual basis.
So you can't be free and then have a penalty if they don't?
Right now, the way that it has worked is we have not had to penalize anybody to see if that would get challenged, because everybody winds up complying by the time it gets to curb. If it's free, I would suspect people would go through the process, get to curb, and then do it anyway after they have to have their hearing. So then we're just dragging out a process for 3 to 6 months just to get them to sign up for the free thing.
Most likely increasing the workload on curb.
Okay.
And how long have we had the CERB board, CERB?
1 year. I mean, this is the first year of it. So
Right. And as I'm listening to the discussion here, my inclination is to, you want to have compliance, and ultimately we want to be able to get a hold of a landlord. And this is the first year, and we're still working out the bugs out of it. My inclination, I guess, would be to keep it as is with no increases, and let's run it another year and see what happens. And then probably this time next year we'd have to take a harder look at it.
And if that is the direction we go, we can start this conversation much earlier in the year too, if we need to. We could put this on for Q1 of 25 to dive in. We could invite folks from the rental communities to come in and speak, or set up a task force of township staff and certain residents to explore this. We can dig in further. I think as Chief said, the goal is to have accountability and to know who we need to talk to.
Just a cost of doing business. Most renters, before they even go to an apartment or a house, they have to do a application fee. The application fee is far more than what we're charging. So the landlord's making it up in several different ways. Just letting you know. I mean, you can have 20 people and they all pay $100 for their application fee. That landlord makes a lot of money just in application fees. So don't think that they're not getting their money back.
So would that set with you if we just kept it as is?
I'm fine,
with no
but I do not
increases?
want to have this as a free, we need the money to keep this program going, and it's funding,
And bring it back on?
yes.
So at some point in, let's say, April, you take another look at it, or?
We can bring it back in April.
And if the cost, if we need the cost, we'll see it then.
Yeah, I guess that seems to be the sense of the board. I just think that there's, I don't know. Yeah, I think that, when is the fee due?
It is usually sent out in December, and I believe the last date to pay is March.
Okay.
So if it came up in April, then we'd have enough data to go, wow, now we're at 86% compliance, or it dropped to 75%.
Right.
I'm just worried about, it seems to me that we've added an extra layer of bureaucracy and it's I guess revenue neutral, and I mean I don't know what I guess if you have some data that suggests that we have higher compliance rates with property maintenance, that's helpful too, because I can put a cost to that. I need to put a dollar. I need to assign a dollar amount to what this is doing. I need to figure out, is it reducing calls? Is it increasing property maintenance?
Sure.
And I mean, I can make an estimate. I could make an estimate based upon the data points on that. But I don't want to create an extra layer of government that really just does nothing but exist.
It has in there what the program cost us to have, correct? It's right in there, what the program costs.
Right. But, I mean...
I understand what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I think I have a pretty good direction of what you need.
Okay.
There's no further discussion.
Sorry that took so long.
No, it's as Dan likes to say, you guys don't get to talk outside of these meetings, so.
We never know what you're working on, so. I do talk to Jeff several times a week, and we cover a lot of different topics, but I don't know what how much the other trustees talk to him, so.
Well, I usually, but it was the end of the quarter, so I was swamped.
So people know Matt's a professional school teacher, and he doesn't have that availability except after Mr. Weckbach's work hours, which should be 168 hours a week, so call him anytime, Matt.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
so we're just gonna let it ride till
Yeah, thank you for,
the first meeting in April?
Yeah, thank you for
Yep, that'll be the plan.
that discussion.
All right, moving on to item C. This is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. This resolution will allow for the removal of uncontrolled vegetation and/or refuge at the following properties: 7881 Old House, 8248 Browns Way Lane, 2689 Havernal Drive, 3507 Niagara Street, 3672 Ripple Grove Drive, 2681 Royal Glen Drive. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at the properties described by Chief Cordy.
I'll second. I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, item D, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 2473 Banning Road. At this address, there are two vehicles. First being a unknown year red Pontiac Grand Prix, Indiana tag NGX764. And the second is a 2014 Chevy Silverado, Ohio GTW 6465, and recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the vehicles located at 2473 Banning Road as junk motor vehicles, the Pontiac and the tan Chevrolet Silverado.
I'll second that.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item E, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3202 Deschler Drive. At this address, there is a 2001 gray Ford Freestar, Ohio HTP 2057. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the vehicle located at 3202 Deschler Drive as a junk motor vehicle as described.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item F, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3252 Deschler Drive. At this address, there is a 2001 green GMC Sierra, Ohio JBS 9544. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to declare junk motor vehicle at 3252 Deschler Drive.
I'll second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item G, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 7881 Old House Road. At this address, there's four vehicles. First being a 2002 silver Hyundai Santa Fe with no tag. Second being a 2005 blue Jeep Liberty, Ohio JCW 7837. Third being a 1999 black Chevrolet S10, Ohio tag JCB 1141. And the last one being a 2003 tan Chevrolet Avalanche with Ohio tag HDZ 9374. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
A motion to declare the junk motor vehicles as described at 7881 Old House Road.
I will second Matt's motion to declare them junk vehicles.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item H, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 9828 Laura Linda Drive. At this address, there's a 2007 blue Chevrolet Venture with Ohio plate of FBV 2967. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the vehicle located at 9828 Laura Linda Drive as a junk motor vehicle.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item I, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 9941 Dunraven Drive. At this address, there is a 1994 white Cadillac DeVille with Ohio plate of HOB 1853. The second being a 1978 gray Dodge Ram with Ohio plate FTM 6512. I recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring those two vehicles at 9941 Dunraven Drive as junk motor vehicles.
What's that Ram look like?
That's what I was just, second, before we go into discussion, I need you to second
I'll
it.
second that.
And what was that? That was a 1978 Dodge?
Dodge Ram.
It's 46 years old, wow.
Huh.
I wonder how long it's been there.
So you say those go to auction?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
It starts the process.
All right.
No other comments from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Yeah, for the record, typically, a lot of these don't end up being, we gain compliance after we get through this stage and we start the process.
And that's what we're here for, is just to get compliance. We're not looking to cause any difficulty, but if you have junk car, get it moving. So,
We have to have something in there to get it going, but item J, a resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 10154 Windswept Lane. At this address, there is a 2005 green Mercedes ML350 with Ohio plate HUK 3858. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
A motion to declare junk motor vehicle on 10154 Windswept Lane.
A second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item K, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 10703 Pottinger Road. At this address, there's 3 vehicles. First being a 1994 black and gray Chevrolet S10, Ohio plate JFZ3091. The second, 1994 blue Mercury Grand Marquis, Ohio plate JKB3459. Third is a 1995 blue Mercury Grand Marquis with Ohio plate HBC 5701. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
Motion to declare junk motor vehicle on 10703 Pottinger Road.
And I'll second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
All right, moving on. Item L, resolution declaring property as a vacant registrable property at 2459 Blue Lark Drive. The CURB, or the Code Enforcement Review Board, held a case and hearing on the below property for it to be considered as vacant. Based upon their review, the CURB passed a motion to recommend that the Board of Trustees declare this property as vacant and to resolve that it is to be registered and fees assessed against them. Again, the property is at 2459 Blue Lark Drive. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the property as vacant registrable property at 2459 Blue Rock Drive as described.
I'll second that.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item M, resolution declaring a property as vacant registrable property at 2856 Sheldon Avenue. Again, this is a one that the CURB held a case on in hearing and make the recommendation to the board to declare this as vacant and resolve that it's to be registered and fees assessed at 2856 Sheldon Avenue. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
Motion to declare property at a vacant and registrable property, 2856 Sheldon Avenue.
I'll second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item N, resolution declaring a property as a vacant registrable property at 3013 Niagara Street. Again, the CURB held this hearing, made the motion, recommend this as vacant. That address is 3013 Niagara Street. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we approve the resolution declaring the property as vacant registrable property at 3013 Niagara.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item O, a motion to direct the administrator to pay off all existing police cruiser lease agreements and execute all associated documents. This was something that we wanted to focus on after our 2 failed levies, where we needed to start to look at the police, just everything that we do within the walls of the police department, and try to determine what was the best course in every action that we had. This is something that's been on my radar for a couple of years. Starting and give a little bit of a background to this, starting in 2017, we started this lease to own model with Huntington Bank. It saved us a lot of money in years 1 through 4 of a 5-year payment plan. We saved some money in those first 4 years, but after that 5th year, we really start, it didn't save us anything. We're at the point that we pay a little over $50,000 in lease payments right now. So, for the interest of those lease payments, I'm sorry. So while looking at this, we took a model for 15 years and tried to look at what it would be and what would the impact over the next 15 years towards our overall budget. So with these lease payments and taking an expected increase in inflation and the way costs have been going with the police cruiser market, we made some assumptions. And the assumptions were by 2030, those lease payments for interest would be projected at about $79,000. And the projected by 2037 will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $111,000. So if we look at that from now until 2030, we were looking at a projected about $420,000 that we would be paying in interest. And from now until 2037, we're close to $1.1 million in interest that was going out the door. So again, we looked at this. We tried to figure out the best way to do this. The analysis resulted in the recommendation not to purchase police cruisers in 2024. Instead, the best course would be to pay off our existing lease schedules now and move to a direct purchasing model starting next year. This new model will allow the department to make decisions based upon the available funds each year and not have to worry about being locked into an agreement that you have no say for the next 4+5 years. Just for a point of clarity, there's some information that's been circulating that I wanted to just talk about. It's been brought to my attention that there's a lot of conversation about the reason why we have as many cruisers as we do. We currently have 40 police cruisers. We do not have a police car for every single police officer. That is not an accurate depiction of what we have. All patrol units share with another officer. They share, taking a step back and you look at the history of our department, in 2012 we made the decision to buy Chargers, Dodge Chargers. We bought 10 of them at that time. By 2016, 8 of those 10 Chargers were dead. They no longer worked, they were inoperable. Because of that, we had officers, I was a night shift sergeant at the time, we had officers having to wait for a day shift police officer to come in so they can go to their call. Our call times were through the roof. At times we were throwing 2 cops in 1 car to be able to go out to respond to things. That's called hot seating. Hot seating is terrible, terrible practice for the longevity and the efficiency of your department and the life of your police cars. The model that we have right now, specialized units like environmental crimes, the school resource officers, the different units like that, impact, they are all assigned to one individual officer because their hours shift and move around based upon their needs. The patrol units share one. So if I was on a nighttime shift, I would share it with the opposite nighttime shift, and we would be our car partners, and we would share that way. Changing the model and going to this has made the life of our cruisers increase from about 3 to 4 years to about 5 to 7 years. So this model drastically, this is kind of my baby. This is something I've worked on for quite some time. Jeff will tell you there was something speculated in 2019 about, is there a way for an incentive to have a take-home car program? And we thought it would be nice, and we looked at it, but it's just not feasible. We would have to spend a large amount of money, an increased amount of money to actually make that possible as an incentive for our officers. Again, looking at this, and there's a lot of work put into this by Lieutenant Middendorf, and John and I worked on this pretty hard, and we see this as something that's going to be getting us out of a hole that's going to start. I mean, by 2037, you're saving $1.1 million that you would not have any control over whatsoever. Recommend adoption of the motion.
So I will motion to direct the administrator to pay off all existing police cruiser lease agreements and execute all associated documents.
And I will second that.
Yeah, and thank you, Chief. This is something I brought up to Chief Denny many years ago. Again, second time I've mentioned Dave Ramsey. He calls the lease the fleece, but this was a little bit different, and I know that worked for us then, but I'm glad that we've changed the model. Once you become path dependent on a model, it's hard to break that dependency, and we're breaking it, and thankfully we're doing it. So it's unfortunate that there's misinformation going around. I mean, I think some people just thrive in misinformation and are just morally bankrupt, but that's unfortunate. So I'm glad that you got the real facts out. So thank you.
If I may, just want to give a big shout out to Ed and Lieutenant Middendorf. They both put a ton of time, effort, and energy into this, and I think this is going to result in some savings for us. It's going to change a little bit of how we operate, but that's okay, and appreciate your all's consideration.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Board, the next items will be presented by Tiffany Mays.
Hello again, Board. I have 3 items on the Public Services New Business agenda. The first is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a contract with Choice One Engineering for the construction engineering of the parking lot at 4160 and 4200 Springdale Road in the amount of $39,200. Information on this item can be found on page 76 of your agenda packet. Earlier this year, we did a conceptual study of the parking lot issues that we are continually having on our campus. As we grow, we're losing parking availability for our new training center downstairs, which was also a new addition lately this year. And through this process, we identified the need to complete portions A, B, and C of the parking lot study. This would expand the number of spaces and allow the training center more access to parking. And also this will address stormwater issues, which we are directing that directly to our basement flooding. We believe that the stormwater issues are coming from that with our aging infrastructure. So this contract is for the complete design and engineering of these areas in order to go out to complete construction bid documents. And this is not to exceed $39,200. This also, I want to add a note that this does not mean we're going to construction, but we will have those engineering plans ready, shovel ready for when we do decide to make that investment. I know we talked earlier in our capital budget to defer that project to 2026 potentially. So staff recommendation is an adoption and approval of this motion.
And the plan would be to still consider and likely move forward with areas B and C next year, and area A being the area of question for the remainder of the township. B and C are areas that would be fully funded through our roads and our public services budgets.
And to get it to the floor, I will motion to authorize the township administrator to execute a contract with Choice One Engineering for the construction engineering of the parking lot at 4160 Springdale Road.
I'll second that.
So we will, the deliverable on this is bid documents and a stamped plan that
Yes, sir.
that assesses the subgrade issues and
Yes.
and has an engineer, has a registered engineer stamp on the finished plans.
Yes.
Is there a shelf life to that if we don't do it till next year?
Well, the conditions could change if the lot is going to deteriorate a little bit every year, but
I would suspect that we would be fine from a shelf life on areas B and C. Area A would be one that we could potentially look at through the new capital budget surplus model from the general fund to see if it made sense at that time. If not, it could be tabled for another year.
And through your research, you found this issue, flooding, it came back to 206.
The flooding issues, we have found some photos dating all the way back to 2002 where we've had flooding in our basement. So there are probably a myriad of issues that are causing it, and we're addressing those in a number of ways. So we've got a 5 or 6 point action plan, but this is another component of that, is getting a better handle on the stormwater on this entire site.
So, I mean, I'm tired, maybe I'm not
Sure.
understanding. So why are we doing the engineering plans if we're not going to do the?
I believe that we will do the full plan. It's just a matter of when, not if.
But why are we doing them a year in advance, I guess?
Because the bid process typically is going to take you 3 to 6 months to get through. Yep.
We won't even have these plans in hand probably till May,
Okay.
June of next year.
All right. Okay. That makes sense. All
and
right.
that said, if you want to put it out to bid, you're better off bidding this kind of work in January when people are a little bit hungrier rather than June. So when
Okay.
would it go out to bid?
I mean, once we get the bid documents back, we could have that conversation, and if you as a board feel that it makes more sense to wait, we can wait. We could have the
No,
document ready.
those are two perfectly reasonable explanations.
Well, if we're gonna put it out to bid, I'd just as soon put it out to bid in February or March, because if you put an asphalt project out to bid in August when everybody's slammed with work, you get a higher price.
And essentially, that's what I was getting at is when the bid documents are ready, if it's August, then we can have that conversation and just delay putting the bid out until, December, January. If it's
Okay.
January of this coming year, then we could just move forward, so.
I have no other comments.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The second item is a motion authorizing Assistant Township Administrator to, oh wait, this is from, where are we at here? Oh, yes, it is me. Okay. I was like, why did I put assistant? I remember now. The Assistant Township Administrator to execute a contract with municipal and contractor sealing products for the repair to the storm sewer pipe system at Commons Circle in the amount of $122,075. Information on this item can be found on page 86 of your agenda. The proposed project consists of a major repair to a stormwater system that is shared by the YMCA property and township property. So this will be a joint private-public project. We will be equally sharing the costs with the YMCA, and the motion is requesting the board to delegate the signatory authority to the assistant administrator, that would be myself, due to a potential conflict of interest with the administrator sitting on the board for the YMCA. So staff recommends that we received 3 bid proposals, with the lowest being municipal and contractor sealing products in the amount mentioned earlier. Staff recommends the bid be awarded to municipal and contractor sealing products. It is getting late, isn't it? In the amount of $122,075. Staff recommendation is an adoption and approval of the motion.
Motion that we authorize the Assistant Township Administrator to execute a contract with municipal and contractor sealing products for repair to the storm sewer pipe system at Common Circle.
I'll second. It seems to me, did we do work back there 4 years ago?
There's a head wall at Common Circle that is massive. It's one of those ones that you can walk in, and we did a major project on that head wall. That is primarily near the condo complex. So I think it's behind one of those buildings there.
All right.
And this is the pipe that actually connects from Colerain Avenue to that head wall.
All right, we done? Is the head wall fixed? Is all that fixed now?
Head wall is fixed, yep. This is the pipe itself is.
And all parts of it are fixed now?
We'll see.
No other comments.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you. And the last item on public services is a motion authorizing the township administrator to execute a contract with Clark Contractors for the arson damage repairs at Clifford Park in the amount of $13,064.15. Information can be found on page 101 of your agenda packet. As you were all aware, there was an arson in the restrooms at Clifford Park. This contract will allow for those repairs. Staff recommendation is an adoption and approval of the motion.
A motion to authorize Township Administrator to execute contract with Clark Contractors for arson damage repairs at Clifford Park in the amount of $13,064.15.
Second.
All right, have we caught somebody here?
No.
Okay. When we do, please send them a bill.
And in the past, when we've had these issues, it winds up being juveniles, so that adds an
Then
extra
send it to
wrinkle
their
to things. So, yep.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Board. The next items will be presented by Development Director David Miller.
Welcome back, Mr. Miller. Be careful, I'm going to send you a bill.
It wasn't in the budget, so I won't be able to pay it. Sorry. So there we have a project that was brought to the township little ways back in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce. And so Mr. Moorbeck, I believe, is still here. And so there is a very large retaining wall that's, I believe, is it 600 feet?
There you go.
330, okay. A little,
That's a big mirror.
little far, that's a long way. So it runs it's on the west side of Colerain Avenue, adjacent to Northgate Mall. And so that wall has just been very plain for forever. And so the chamber has come up with a plan to dress that up with a mural. And so Mr. Morvek has put together a team that includes township employees as well as chamber staff and board members. And so they have been working through a variety of channels, one being primarily the muralist who we contracted with a little ways back to do the Northbrook mural, Keep It Pollinated, Josh Stout. So, it's not. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that's who we were working with. Brian Beck. Okay, Brian Beck. I was thinking it was Josh Stout. My apologies. And so, this is a proposal to the trustees that would allow the township administrator to enter into a contract with ODOT, since it is their wall. They would partner only with the local jurisdiction, so that's us. And so we have gone through some iterations on the agreement that is before you in your packet. And this joint agreement between Colerain Township and Colerain Chamber of Commerce for the installation of that mural lays out all the responsibilities of the parties. Primarily, all financial responsibilities would be the chamber, and so this would allow the administrator to just partner with ODOT for that mural. So I would, I think, be remiss if I didn't invite Mr. Borbeck to say 60 seconds worth, if you can do that. It may be more. Worthy of.
I was hoping we'd see a rendering.
Welcome back, sir.
That is possible with some magic of technology. So I purposely didn't address the mural in my 5 minutes of conversation earlier because I knew it was going to be on the agenda tonight. I have lots of answers to many of the questions that were presented by Ms. Davis, and I'm glad to answer them here for you. This has been a year-long project, if not 6 years earlier, with a proposal to you or some sidebar conversation that took place. We are a strong financial entity, and the financial portion of this, half of the money has already been raised. The Chamber of Commerce has allocated $10,000 of our resources towards this. We've received a partial grant from Duke Energy and from Rumpke. The rendering that's there on the screen currently takes into account, it's a little tough to see with the car there, but there are two standards that are in the way, if you will, of having that entire wall being seen, because they are structural to the bridge over the top. So there's a little space gap in there where that mouse is rolling over. The other picture that I think I shared with Jeff is a solid picture. There you go. That's a pretty good rendering. That wall is 7 foot tall, and so the first draft of this, well, this actually this is the current draft. It's very much Alice in Wonderland-like. Those are bigger than life flowers, and there's been some question about the look and feel of that and whether or not the residents of the community should be taken into consideration. A couple things of note: this is a completely commercial property, and the owners on both sides of the mall side and on the opposite side are viewing this on a daily basis from their businesses. So there's an intrinsic benefit to those businesses, and we've approached them to be a part of this committee. We've had staff members from the township. We've had chamber members who are residents, longtime residents of the community, providing input to make this possible. So those concerns have been addressed. We've looked at the safety of this space, because if you put words on there and people are driving past at 35 miles an hour and they're going like this, we don't want to increase public safety challenges for Chief Cordy and Chief Walls. So those were taken into consideration. And lastly, but not leastly, the community itself. We want to be a good steward in the community as the Chamber of Commerce and as stewards in the community, and providing a nice looking wall for our residents and passers through, those that are coming to Colerain, was first and foremost in bringing this project forward. We couldn't do it without the help of many conversations through the Team Up to Green Up initiative, and the project will be funded through the Chamber of Commerce Foundation. So donations to that foundation will be charitable donations through our 501c3.
Thank you so much for spearheading this. I had this conversation with Mr. Mills like 5 years ago about a mural on that spot, and it's. I know that everybody else has picked up the mantle, and thank you so much for doing so. I think it's. I'm not a mural guy till I saw the one in Northbrook, and I'm like, wow, what a difference! And I think this will make a significant difference too.
My wife and I went to Blink over the weekend for the first time, and plenty of times I've been in the city, and if you go to Over the Rhine or any part of the city, murals are fascinating. And to have one in as visible a location as this is, when the alternative is a gray piece of concrete, I think this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
And I think it's significant that it's been paid for by the businesses in the chamber, and I think that's fantastic.
We're about halfway there for the funding. I believe that we'll secure the rest of the funding between now and Christmas.
All right. Thank you so much.
I will go ahead and motion to authorize the township administrator to execute an agreement with the Chamber of Commerce for the construction of a mural on Colerain Avenue.
I'll second that.
And then for my little bit of discussion, it looks very neutral and non-offensive to anyone. It just looks very floral, and I think it'll really brighten the.
It's like, it's gonna be something to look at.
It'll brighten up the street.
And ultimately, I mean, ODOT is the one who's going to say yes or no, which is part of the reason why the agenda item is drafted the way it is, because they may decide that the colors are too vibrant or not vibrant enough, or who knows. I'm not an ODOT engineer, and so since they are going to be the ones that are going to have final say, it did not seem to make sense for us to be an additional layer to muddy the water even further.
Uh-oh.
If I could just add one more thing. In the resolution, or in all of our thinking, we didn't want to put any burdens on the township from a financial perspective. So we've taken into account reserve funds for maintenance of that and upkeep, because we feel that that's important to not let it deteriorate.
It's a very appealing part of it that we're not paying for it.
And that they're gonna take care of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay,
I would like the motion that we would take a very short break for less than 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, do we want to put a?
I'll second his motion.
Do we want to put a time on it here?
He's good.
We'll be
Okay.
right back.
All right. Call for vote.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes. I motion that we reopen the meeting.
Ms. Orich? Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next items on the agenda are in administration. I'll handle the first couple, and then we'll have Tiffany come up for the last few, or for some in the middle, and then we'll go back to me. But kick things off, we've got a resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations. This is the point of the year where we tend to see some things. Oh, mine's going. Yep.
What?
Oh, okay. I'll try to speak louder into the mic. But first item is a resolution authorizing adoption of amended appropriations. At this point of the year, with it being fourth quarter, we usually have some cleanup. Number of cleanup items on here, as well as an item on here to allow us to pay off the cruiser leases, which we previously approved. And I would recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to adopt the resolution to authorize the amended appropriations.
I'll second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Ms. Strunger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to enter into an agreement with Zix Corp. At the last meeting, we approved an agreement with Zix. There was a misquote on that, and so this is a cleanup agreement. This is $108 more than the last agreement to make sure that we have the appropriate licenses for our software. Recommend adoption of the motion.
I'll motion to authorize the administrator to enter into a service agreement with Zix Corp Systems, Inc.
I'll second Matt's motion. And it shows here on the online agenda that it makes the total $33,426.37.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Ms. Strunger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing necessary levies and certifying them to the county auditor. This is just a fancy way of telling the auditor that we agree with what they've sent us in terms of what they will collect next year and ensures that they will collect our property taxes on our behalf, and I recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to accept the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorize the necessary levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
I will second that.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Ms. Strunger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And the next two items will be presented by Assistant Administrator Mays.
Hello again. All right. The next item is a resolution to modify the organizational chart and job descriptions. This information can be found on page 121 in your agenda packet. As vacancies occur within our organization, staff likes to, what we find a good practice is that we review for any opportunities for realignment. We just had a recent vacancy of our management analyst, which was a full-time position, and we found a few areas where we can fill that head count, if you will, in other more efficient and effective positions within our organization. So that being said, this will result in this resolution will result in a reclassification of our finance specialist to a more advanced role as the finance manager. This position will oversee the day-to-day staff for our finance operations. This will also create a new role known as the administrative clerk, which will be responsible for day-to-day payroll activities. This person will also act as a key backup for our front desk operations. So this is someone Glenna can count on for backfilling if she's on vacation and whatnot. This will eliminate the management analyst role, and finally it will replace the part-time management analyst role with a part-time receptionist role. Overall, the change in structure will not result in any additional positions, and also the organization, what we'll do is we'll continue to make necessary changes to enhance the separation of duties in the finance office and allow for better succession planning in the department. So, of course, this will always increase our efficiency and effectiveness. Staff recommendation is an adoption and approval of the resolution.
A motion, we approve the resolution to modify the organizational chart and job descriptions as described by Assistant Administrator Mays.
I'll second.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Ms. Strunger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, the next item is a motion to appoint Trustee Unger as the representative to the Board of Directors of the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments, and Assistant Administrator Mays as the alternate. Information can be found on page 132 of your agenda packets. As you know, OKI provides crucial funding for many of the township infrastructure projects. By having representation on the board, the township is better positioned to be aware of grants and to be able to draft grant responses that will more likely be awarded. Trustee Unger has been a representative on behalf of Colerain since January of 2018, and Ms. Mays has been the alternate since 2023. Staff recommendation is an adoption of the and approval of the motion.
I'll motion to appoint Trustee Unger, assuming he accepts, as representative to the Board of Directors of the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments, and Assistant Administrator Mays, assuming you accept, is the alternate.
I'll second.
And I would like to point out that is a volunteer position for me, and there's no expenses involved, and it's on my own time and on my own gas going back and forth to the meetings I can attend. So I don't think there's any conflict with me voting to approve myself. So.
Okay.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you again.
All right, Board, the next several items are all going to tie back to the public hearings we had at the start of the meeting. And I'm going to kind of explain what they are first go around and then try to roll through this. But the first is a resolution establishing a TIF district for Staverman Farms. This resolution would actually formally establish the district and create the paperwork that would then go down to the county auditor. These TIF districts have been previously approved at a board meeting by the Northwest Local School District. These would be make-whole TIFs, where we'd be making service pilot payments to them in an equal amount to what their share would be. In this case, this TIF is estimated to generate around $20 million in added valuation, and I would recommend adoption of the resolution.
A motion to establish a TIF district, Staverman Farms.
I'll second it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a resolution to create a TIF fund. So the state auditor requires you all to oftentimes pass legislation in order to set up a fund on our accounting system, and that's what this legislation would do. And I would recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution to create a tax increment financing fund for Staverman Farms.
Second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a resolution creating a TIF district. This is the Colerain Road Wawa, and I would recommend adoption of the resolution.
A motion to establish a TIF district at the Colerain Road Wawa.
I'll second it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a resolution to create a TIF fund for the Colerain Road Wawa, and I would recommend adoption.
Motion we approve a resolution to create a TIF fund for the Wawa on Colerain Road.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a resolution to establish a TIF district for Weiler Kia.
A motion to establish a TIF district for the Weiler Kia.
I'll second it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a resolution to create a TIF fund for the Weiler Kia TIF.
A motion to create a TIF fund for Weiler Kia.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a resolution to establish a TIF district for the Wawa Blue Rock Road.
A motion to establish a TIF district for the Wawa Blue Rock Road.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And the last of these is a resolution to create a TIF fund for the Wawa Blue Rock Road.
A motion to approve a TIF fund for the Wawa Blue Rock Road.
I'll second.
I would just like to comment that what we have just done as a board or about to complete is generating additional revenue stream for the township, and this does not raise the taxes on these properties. It does not lower them. It just redirects the tax collection to Colerain Township, and this is a good thing, and this represents a lot of work on a lot of different people's parts, and great economic development, and hopefully improving our finances here at the township without raising anybody's taxes.
And those funds, a lot of people assume those funds are used for business purpose, for developing the business. No, they're used for, we use them for township purposes in that region to develop, for township spending. And it could be one of many, many things. We haven't laid out the priorities now, because we haven't gotten the money. So we don't spend it, if we don't have it. But, this takes the onus off the taxpayers, for a period of multiple years, to pay for those items. And I'm so happy that we really didn't do TIFs before, 5 or 6 years ago, and it's an economic development tool where we can get an influx of money, and we've taken advantage of.
Mr. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a motion to approve a memorandum of understanding with IAFF 3915 regarding vacation. There is a typo in this where on the second to last paragraph, it references January 1st, 2015. That should read January 2017. So with that caveat, I would recommend adoption of the motion. This is something that we've been discussing on and off with the IAFF. Right now, as it stands, there are kind of two groups. There is the pre-2017 group that did not have vacation, did not accrue it ahead of time, and the post-2017 that got a dump of hours at the start. This would move everybody onto the same platform that the current township employees are on outside of the union, where each payroll, everybody receives a little bit per pay toward their vacation time. And this would correct some inequities between the two divisions and hopefully solve some longstanding issues with the union. And so with that said, I would recommend approval of the MOU with the typo correction of 2015 to 2017.
I motion that we would approve the memorandum of understanding with IAFF 3915 for vacation as described Article 31.
I'll second.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And the final item of new business tonight is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to enter into an agreement with a law director. As you know, we did an RFP for law director services. Scott Solman's current agreement with the Township is set to expire on December 31st, 2024. And so we're seeking direction from you all via motion on an individual to appoint as the law director for the Township and any other items such as length of term of contract that you would like considered in said motion.
An individual or a firm?
Individual.
Okay, so I'll motion to authorize Township Administrator to enter an agreement with Brody Conover as law director for I think it's a 2-year term, is that?
I believe that's what's contemplated in the agenda.
Yeah, the 2-year term.
I'll second.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes. And thank you to Mr. Solman. He's been fantastic. I've been with you now for ever since North College Hill, were you?
Yeah, we represent you guys. I want to, on behalf of myself and the firm, I want to thank the trustees and especially the administration for the 12 years that we've been here. Really appreciated my time here and look forward to crossing paths in the future and wish you guys nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you so much, and the same to you, and you've been fantastic. You've always been there when I've called, and I call a lot. So thank you so much, and good luck to you.
Right, Board. The next items on the agenda are the consent items. I understand that there's a potential conflict on the first item, so I will recommend that we handle that separately. And I'll read into the record items B through D. First is a promotion of finance manager, that's Cindy Miller, at a rate of $41 an hour. Second is a contract with Playground Equipment Services. That's an update to a former agreement. And then the last is a contract with HealthWorks. This is for our employee flu shot and biometric screenings at the rate of $150. I'd recommend approval of consent items B through D.
To get to the floor, I'm going to motion that we recommend approval of items B through D.
I'll second it.
So my question is with regard to C, obviously, we had an individual show up here and kind of caught me a little bit flat-footed. Where are we at on this? Is this, I noticed Mr. Solomon had a discussion with the family.
I advised him that he's not a part of it. I don't know what he's talking about. There was a clause that was in the addendum that was executed by the township recently that said if the property was purchased by PES, or I can't remember the name of that they have, then there was conditions, and they were trying to say we're building on that property, or there's issues that apparently PES is doing. I said that's between you and PES. That's got nothing to do with the township in this agreement at all.
If a private individual is building on your property, your recourse is to take that private individual to court. This case originally started with a zoning complaint for PES, I believe, operating a business in a non-business environment, went all the way through the courts. There was a legal settlement that was reached, and then there were some changes in state law and different things that affected the terms of that agreement. For example, the laws around JEDs have changed, and because of that, we've had to take a hard look at how do we rectify this agreement to ensure that all parties can be compliant with the terms of the agreement, and that's what this settlement agreement update does.
And the monetary amount of the 5,000 isn't is one, so instead of quid pro quo, it's a
That is equivalent to the payments they would have been making to a JED.
under the JED, right, which are no longer, it's the JED is moot because of the changes in the law. Is that?
Changes in the law and, the requirement to find another party, and so this cuts out potentially another government agency as well.
Right. I mean, we'd have to go find the chances of finding somebody who wants to be a municipal partner in a JED for
One property.
that
That has
is
like
not gonna
5
happen.
employees, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure that we had, so our legal advice is we have no exposure here.
As far as I'm aware.
Right.
Without violating privilege. I'm teasing.
No, actually, I will say that Mr. McCarthy, his son, did make a public records request, and I will be providing him a copy of that addendum.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, just making sure. Thank you, sir.
No other discussion on those three items?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And the final item is a recommendation for promotion to full-time firefighter EMT. That is Nathan Scher at a rate of $22.43 per hour.
So I'm it's not necessary to do, but I am going to recuse myself anyway from voting on this. I taught Mr. Scher for 2 years. I've known his father for almost, 10 years. And I've known the family, and I just think it'd be best if I recuse myself.
I will go ahead and motion that despite his dealings with Mr. Waller, that we would go ahead and bring him on as a full-time firefighter, and hopefully he'll be able to overcome the trauma associated with Mr. Waller.
I'll second. I get more years of endurance, right?
Yes, and so, did you have any comments about his dealings with Mr. Waller?
I just said he's got to endure more years. He had
That's
2
some,
years.
that's some tough training, so, no other comments.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Abstain. And now I can say, welcome aboard, Nate. We're so proud of you. Altiora, you done good, man.
Good. No.
Isn't he awesome? He was a fantastic student, and a defensive lineman at 5'10" and 160 pounds soaking wet or something. The dude works his butt off, doesn't he? Yep. Thank you. And Mr. Scott, thank you for letting us have your son.
Okay, fiscal officer report, sorry.
Thank you, Board. A couple things. First, the bank reconciliation has been completed for the month of September and was posted to the online with an adjusted bank balance of $50,095,112.44. I wanted to also give kudos. I'm very happy that Glenna Carter has received, an acknowledgement as Administrator of the Year, because she definitely is, and it's just nice to see that she's been recognized as that. I don't know that I could be fiscal officer for Colerain Township, quite honestly, without Glenda's help. And in fact, I know that I couldn't. So I'm just glad to see that she got deserved recognition for that. And that brings me to my last point of records request, because she's very integral in helping me with those as well. Records request as of today, we've received 430 this year. And I don't know that I've ever been able to say this. I'm not sure that I have, maybe one other time, but I can't remember. We have 0 that are outstanding. So we are completely caught up on 430 records requests. So, and then lastly, I would just ask everyone to make a plan to vote on November 5th. This is you know, I know it's said a lot of times in elections, but I truly believe that this will probably go down as the most important election of my lifetime. So people just need to get out and vote. So with that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Is there a need for an executive session?
Yes, I would recommend a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to discuss the compensation of public employees, and in accordance with 121.22G2 to discuss the sale of township property.
I motion we would go into executive session for those 2 reasons detailed by Mr. Weckbach.
I'll second.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back.
Do you anticipate there'll be any action, Jeff?
No action is anticipated.
It's 10:09. We're back from executive session. Can we do roll call?
Ms. Orch?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Is there anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
We are officially adjourned at 10:09. Thank you.